होते होते
आप बाइक लेकर जूम हो जाओगे।
क्या बात है, ये तो मेरे जितना फास्ट है। L&T Finance, just zoom, two-wheeler loans.
And once again he has changed the game. Classic Bumrah.
मैदान पे गेम चेंजर मैं, पर बिजनेस का गेम चेंजर L&T Finance बिजनेस लोन्स। नहीं समझे? क्योंकि सिंपल सा प्रोसेस दिलाए जीत, मैदान कोई भी हो। क्विक लोन डिस्पर्सल यानी चैलेंज का डिसमिसल। फ्लेक्सिबल लोन बना दे आपको मैन ऑफ द सीजन। तो हुआ ना L&T फाइनेंस बिजनेस लोन गेम चेंजर।
L&T फाइनेंस बिजनेस लोन आपके बिजनेस का गेम चेंजर।
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do see some empty seats up ahead. So all the innovators, I request you to kindly get up and fill up the seats that are empty in front of you. I request all the brilliant minds that are right now sitting as backbenchers to kindly ahead and fill those empty seats. Well, a very good morning to all the innovators, disruptors, dreamers, and doers. And a very, very, very warm welcome to RAISE'25, hosted by L&T Finance, where intelligence meets ambition and ideas are raised to reality. India's premier AI event in the banking, financial services, and insurance sector. And this year, we explore the theme of accelerating financial services with AI. I am Swasti Kalra, your host for today, and I have to say that it feels amazing to be back this year. I had the privilege of being a part of the first edition of RAISE, where we reimagined financial services with AI. And let me tell you, a lot has changed in the past 1 year. AI has moved faster. Ideas have gotten bigger and bolder. And most of you have definitely implemented AI in your organizations. But here's what hasn't changed: the relentless drive and vision that L&T Finance brings to the world of responsible AI. That same commitment to combining intelligence with impact and boldness with balance. Today is about what happens when we don't just follow the future, we shape it. And whether you're here to contribute to dialogues, share your thoughts, or ask big questions, spark new collaborations, or just quietly take it all in, I promise you there is something here for all of you. And on that note, I want all of you to give yourselves a big round of applause to kickstart the day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when I say big, this room is really big. You gotta fill it up. Come on, make some noise. I still see some people just blatantly staring at me. Can you also join them and give us a big round of applause here? Everybody standing at the back. So before we set everything in motion, I'd like you to join me in giving a huge round of applause to 3 exceptional leaders who are sitting right here in the front row with us. Mr. S.N. Subramanian, Chairman and Managing Director, Larsen & Toubro. Your applause has to get louder. Come on. Now keep that going for Mr. R. Shankar Raman, President, Whole-Time Director and CFO, Larsen & Toubro. And Mr. Sudipta Roy, Managing Director and CEO, L&T Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the minds and hands steering the ship. And today's event is a testament to their vision. And now to officially set RAISE'25 in motion, gentlemen, I request the 3 of you to kindly come and stand next to the magical cube in front of you. On the count of 3, you have to place your hands on the impressions that you see in front of you. But before that, I have a question for the audience. Are you ready? You want me to believe that? These gentlemen in front of you are not going to believe you, and they're closer to you than I am right now. Are you ready? All right, gentlemen, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Come on, give it up, ladies and gentlemen.
The current era sees AI emerge as a universal engine of progress, elevating human capabilities and setting new horizons. AI is now intelligently rewriting the BFSI sector's foundation, and this transition drives a new era of radical efficiency and innovation. At L&T Finance, we are transforming from reimagining financial services with AI to accelerating financial services with AI, with initiatives such as Project Cyclops, an in-house developed proprietary credit risk assessment and automated decision-making digital credit engine. Project Nostradamus, an industry-first, AI-driven automated real-time portfolio management engine. Underwriting co-pilots. We have built specialized AI agents like Bureau Agent, Banking Agent, and Supervisory Agent to launch SME Underwriting Co-Pilot. Knowledgeable AI, a multilingual chatbot live across all L&T Finance products. It guides customers' financial journey from product discovery to service, in addition to answering their questions. And Voice AI, an integrated voice AI into our chatbot, call centers, and the Planet app, enabling customers to interact in natural conversational ways for sales, servicing, or collections. These advancements are not just improving business metrics, they are set to deliver sustainable and predictable growth for our stakeholders and a more inclusive financial services ecosystem for India. Here, at the second edition of RAISE, you will unlock future trends with tech pioneers, discover generative and predictive AI zones, and track real-time case studies on customized AI solutions. This is the day when the industry converges with possibilities. Welcome to RAISE'25, India's premier AI event in the BFSI sector.
Well, I left for about 2 minutes and the applause got very quiet. Why? Come on, let me hear it. It is just the beginning. Come on, keep it up. Well, if what we just saw reminded us of one thing, it's this. We're not just imagining a future with AI. We're living it, we're shaping it every second as we go. From identity to inclusion, from data to decisioning, what we just saw isn't science fiction. It's a vision already in motion, and the next chapter begins right now. Thank you, gentlemen, for kickstarting RAISE'25. Special thanks to our sponsors, Google Cloud, Microsoft Salesforce, and NVIDIA. Lanyard partner, Dynatrace, and gifting partner, Finbox. To the lively audience, don't forget to explore the tech track and an amazing lineup of AI innovations in the expo area during the day. And do share your event highlights using the official hashtag. It's hashtag LTFRaise'25 on social media platforms. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to open this incredible day, we are honored to welcome a visionary at the helm of India's most transformative conglomerates. Please join me in welcoming Mr. S.N. Subramanian, Chairman and Managing Director of Larsen & Toubro, to deliver our first keynote on leveraging AI in financial services in India. Come on, give it up! Swasti.
I just wanted to be clear about her name, ladies and gentlemen, because I am not going to get a big applause after what I talked, so I needed her to be back here so that you give the applause. Hi, good morning to all of you, and lovely to be here again. Frankly, I'm not the expert to talk on this topic, but Sudipta decided that he needed my support for all the money that he's going to spend on this. And therefore, I'm the ideal speaker, because when you speak, you commit, and then you're held to that, right? Okay. That's why I'm here. Otherwise, I don't think you would have called me, but anyway, take the opportunity to be here. So, Mr. Peter Novrig, Director of Engineering and Education, Google Stanford. Vishal, my good old friend from, I don't know, his company has got 5 followed by hundreds of zeros, the NVIDIA. And of course, my college mate, Mr. Bhuvanesh Kumar from Unique Identification Authority of India. Lovely to have all of you, and of course, I cannot forget Shankar Raman and Sudipta, Hemant, and other senior people who are here. I'll try to put some thoughts that I have over some period of time gathered on AI. Since this is not a topic that naturally flows to my head, I try to read it from a piece of paper, so take that in a proper spirit. I think as a nation, we are at a very unique inflection point with over 1 billion internet subscribers and a booming fintech ecosystem of which predominantly uses AI, and including a retail boom, which has to use AI as a catalyst for transformation. That L&T Finance under Sudipta's leadership has taken this as a key way to transform L&T Finance from what was a predominantly wholesale finance company to now a absolutely retail finance company. I think it's the right way to go, and he has the full backing of me and I guess the board for pushing this agenda to wherever it needs to go from a transformative point of view, from a future point of view, from a survival point of view. The agentic AI era is a paradigm shift, right? Many of us talk about it, but we have still not understood the implications of it. I was on the west coast of US recently, and I had the privilege of meeting all the top hyperscaler leaders, including Vishal's boss, Mr. Jensen Huang, and including OpenAI. And what is happening there is the language you don't understand. They're talking about a different language. To give a simple example, when I was in OpenAI, we did talk about building data centers, and I was very proudly mentioning L&T has forayed into data centers when you have about 30-odd megawatts in place right now, and we have some GPUs and others there. The OpenAI guys started laughing. SNS, can you build a 1 gigawatt data center? And I need 5 1 gigawatt data centers, 5 gigawatt. I mentally calculated, so assuming 5 gigawatt is 5,000 megawatt into 45, 50 odd crores. When you calculate the number that is flowing, I said, he's asking my entire balance sheet to be put on data centers right now. And he said, that is not enough. We need more of it. And as much as I know, he has gone and committed more than $1.7 trillion into making data centers because of ChatGPT and other versions of it have to get into more propensity. That's the kind of processing data that you would require, and that's mind-boggling. The agentic AI bots can operate automatically, handle unstructured data, and execute end-to-end processes, translating into faster product development, and lower implementation, and very tailored business solutions. There are more than 160 use cases announced by the world's 50 largest banks. One US bank saw a 30% improvement in credit turnaround using AI agents. I think we see some similar examples in L&T Finance. In India, a leading digital collection platform is using a Gen AI tool to monitor 100% of its collections. A Gen AI-related patents now make up 60% of all AI patents, and large corporations are making significant investments in AI, which all of you are about. Amazon itself has forecast more than $100 billion in capital expenditure for 2025, and most of it is dedicated towards AI. Big banks like JP Morgan Chase, Mr. Jamie Dimon was on TV, and he was talking about entire bank becoming a dark bank, and he was requesting the US government to retrain all its people into something else because of the advent of AI, and that's the kind of talk that is going on. In India, we had a fantastically proactive government policy on this, which is a push for AI infrastructure. We have the vision of India AI mission approved by the cabinet, making AI in India and making AI work for India. It's allocated more than 10,300 crores for AI investments. We have the centers of excellence in healthcare, agriculture, sustainable cities, and now education. We have an AI competency framework for government officials, the India AI Startups Global Acceleration Program, the Sarvam AI, building India's sovereign LLM ecosystem, the Bhashini, breaking language barriers with support for 20 Indian languages and 350 AI models, and Bharat Gen AI, India's first multilingual, multimodal, government-funded AI model. I would say there's not a policy anymore, it's more a momentum that is going on. On India's financial sector, the Reserve Bank of India has released a free AI framework, a blueprint for responsible and ethical AI adoption in finance. And over 80% of financial institutions have embedded AI in some form or the other. The key areas of use include fraud detection, credit underwriting, customer service, and risk management. Of course, NBFCs follow the banks, and we're also more or less doing that. So if I will get angry if I say follow the banks, I would say banks are following your NBFC right now. There's also a precision over heft. The precision is a new competitive advantage. It's not necessarily size anymore, it's being correct, it's being precision. AI holds significant promise for banking. There are still early days of agentic and Gen AI, imperative to use surgical precision to identify where these technologies can truly generate earnings impact. Most companies are still in the exploration and experimentation stage. We have seen that in L&T Finance also, but I think this will pick up momentum. In 2024, the global banking sector generated net income of about 1.2 trillion, more than any other industry. Yet the banking industry is not valued like the hyperscalers. But with AI being introduced, I think banks will also be called hyperscalers, and maybe they do banking, and that is bound to happen. The investors think banks' record financial results have been propped up temporarily by the high interest rates and a peak in wealth cycle, but this is bound to change into more competition as we move forward. Deploying precision, and let me explain what I mean by that. The technology development is focused on high-impact AI applications like zero-touch operations, real-time risk monitoring, agent-first customer service. New consumers personalize at individual levels and farm existing consumer much more than what we are doing right now. And capital efficiencies use AI to review capital allocation granularly and predict future needs of customers. The glimpses of the next wave, the payment networks are deploying agentic commerce. AI agents that shop autonomously using customers' prompts and complete transactions on their behalf. Example, a user's AI agent with pre-authorized credential plans a dinner party. It compares prices, selects groceries, and pays all autonomously via the pay agent. We could not think about it a few days back. In India, mobile payments and mobile-first banking are enabling rapid financial inclusion at scale. Another aspect of technological evolution in financial services is the rise of stable coins, digital currencies pegged to stable assets such as the US dollar, if I may say so, enabling around-the-clock, near-instant, transparent global transfers at very low transaction costs. The lesson is to deploy capital with precision, doubling down where the financial institution has an edge. In this new era, precision isn't just a strategy, it's a path to profitable growth. AI is a bridge between scale and precision banking and personalization. Leadership won't be about size, it will be about focus and profitability. And let AI and human expertise will work together, learning, improving, and growing side by side. The banks also need to adapt to the new customer. The new consumer is no more loyal. He is less loyal and more willing to switch. If somebody offers a better service, you're switched. Digital fast expecting seamless mobile integrated experiences, hyper-personalized demanding services tailored to very unique needs. In India, the shift is even more pronounced. The Gen Z, as we call it, and the millennials are driving a massive wealth transfer, and they expect the banks to keep up to it, not just with digital, but with intelligent AI-powered engagement. 50% of Gen AI users say AI features will influence the decision to switch banks. Mobile banking usage in India has surged, but branches remain vital for complex transactions, and customers appreciate having someone to talk to during transactions that are complicated, unpredictable, or emotionally charged. Some strategies for success: we have to win the consumer mindshare. I think our L&T Finance is doing it. We see it plastered all around the city. Embrace mobile as an orchestrator, making mobile the central channel, seamlessly connected to branches, contact centers, and such. Embed AI into customer journeys, use AI to deliver hyper-personalized experience with strong privacy and security. At L&T Finance, delighted to see how teams integrate voice AI into all our call centers, and the Planet app enabling customers to interact in natural conversational ways, whether it's for sales, servicing, cajoling, or collections. It's exactly the kind of forward-looking innovation that makes technology all-inclusive. Some of the initiatives of L&T Finance, the project Cyclops, which is essentially an underwriting tool, was launched at RAISE last year. And today it has become a good underwriting platform, especially for L&T Finance, and hope something like that for the industry. Other initiatives include the Nostradamus, which is essentially a portfolio monitoring platform, which uses agentic AI underwriting co-pilots and measures for enhancing data governance. Other initiatives include Planet app by L&T Finance was recently bestowed with the Best Digital Experience in Finance Award. Thank you, I didn't have to call her. And transformed how customers experience financial services. This achievement reflected our continued focus on innovations, scalability, and customer delight. Concluding thoughts, if I may, AI, in my view, is just not a tool. It's the new infrastructure of competitive advantage. As India stands at the intersection of digital age and intelligent innovation, the future will belong not to those who adopt AI broadly, but to those who deploy it brilliantly. Precision is no longer optional, I think is existential for all finance companies. A decade ago, India's financial revolution was about access, bringing millions into the digital fold. The next revolution is about understanding, using AI to make every interaction more personal, more local, and more human. This intelligent inclusion, where technology doesn't reach people, it understands them, is going to be the way of life. When our voice AI, which has been deployed in L&T Finance, speaks to a farmer in Marathi about loan options, or helps a customer in Tamil navigate repayment seamlessly, it's just not automation, it is inclusion powered by intelligence. India led the world in financial inclusion. We gave people access to the system. The next chapter is financial understanding, where every individual is seen, heard, and served in the way that's right for them. When a customer in a village can talk to the bank in their native language of Bhojpuri and get advice tailored to their life, it's just not technology. That's dignity powered by intelligence. I think that's what this RAISE conference is all about. I'm sure what L&T Finance has started as an initiative by bringing all brilliant people across the globe into this little conference that we are able to afford and manage raises the bar for what AI can do, will do, and maybe what we never know will be able to be done. I think it's a great forum for all of you to come together, for people like me to participate, though we are on the other side of life, and to understand this new next-gen revolution that is beyond us, that is taking place, to be a little part of it, and to make it a part of our existing life. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having given me this opportunity to stand in front of you and talk. And let me call Swati so that I get a better address. Swati! I don't know, she's not coming. She wants me to get all the applause. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you. I wanted you to come so that I get the applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not cool. Sir had to wait for me to enter to get his applause. Come on, give it up for Mr. Subramanian. Sir, I assure you, by the time you leave here today, you're going to be a bigger star than ever, because you're going to hear this applause a lot today. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Subramanian for that inspiring start to the day. So your vision for how AI can responsibly transform financial services while staying rooted in India's growth story sets the tone perfectly for what lies ahead today. From leadership to innovation, we now shift our gears to explore how AI is being applied globally across industries and how that journey is unfolding right now. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, joining us through video conferencing is one of the most influential minds in artificial intelligence today. Someone who has contributed in shaping the very way we think about machine learning, data science, and education. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome Mr. Peter Norvig, Director of Engineering and Education Fellow, Google and Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, to shed light on AI applications for business now and in the future. Sir will be joining us through video conferencing. Come on, but he still has to hear you. Give him a big round of applause.
Okay. Thank you for that introduction. Are we ready to go? Right. I'm glad to be talking to you. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person, but happy to participate by video. And I want to talk to you about where AI is today and where it might be going. First, let's start with some of the bad news. This report came out a few months ago saying 95% of generative AI pilot programs are failing. That seems pretty bad. So we want to figure out how you can avoid being in that part. Now, some of it isn't as bad as it seems. When they said failing, what they meant is not showing a positive return on investment within a 6-month period. And there are other criteria for success. And there are other studies that have quite different conclusions. So at Stanford, we put out this AI index every year. And here, there's dozens of studies, and many of them look really good, getting 5%, 34%, 12% improvement. A couple of them not so good. 0% improvement on a task where the best people were already perfect, so they couldn't improve. And a negative score on a task where people found the AI so interesting that they ended up playing with the AI rather than doing their regular task and lost some time. But maybe we can think of that as an investment for the future. Here's a study that says on average, people are gaining about 2 hours per week from their use of generative AI. So a small but important gain there. So how can you be in the camp that succeeds rather than in the side that fails? And I think the most important thing is to remember that AI is not a regular information technology implementation. You don't just go and buy some software from some vendor and install it. Instead, the best uses of AI come from the bottom up. They come from the workers who have a task and can say, here's the hard part of the task, here's where I need some help, and AI can help them. So we want to make sure that you know from the start, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Don't just say, I got to have some AI because everybody else has it. Say, here's what I need it for, and here's how it can help. Then it's really important to provide training and support to people so that they do a good job on it. AI runs on data, so making that data available, stopping the temptation to keep everything secret, make sure you share it. And then think about optimizing processes, not necessarily looking for revenue immediately. Because if you make things better, then the revenue will follow over time. Really important to understand that problem solving involves contact between multiple people. So don't silo them. Make it everyone's business to do a good job with this. Now, I want to talk about this, what I call the personal computer non-revolution. So there was a personal computer revolution. And why do we get that? Because we had things like the spreadsheet, and we said now an accountant who used to take minutes to add up a column of numbers can now do that in a second. So that should make things much, much faster. But if we look at this, and here's a chart of GDP growth by percentage in the US over the last 90 years. And I look at that chart and I see two big events, the Great Depression and World War II. But other than that, I don't see much. And right there was the introduction of PCs, and you can't see a big impact from that. Now, I thought about why could that be true? And in computer science, we have this thing called Amdahl's law from Gene Amdahl, who was the founder of one of the most important supercomputer companies. And he said, supercomputers can really help. You have lots of processors, you can do things lots of times faster. But if the part that you speed up is only a small part of the problem, then you can only make a small improvement. And I think that's what's happening with accountants. Yeah, it was fantastic that they could add up this column of numbers instantly, but adding up columns of numbers turned out to be not a big part of the accountant's job. The big part was figuring out where those numbers should go, what column they should be in. And spreadsheets didn't help with that. Now, AI is a technology that's much more general, and it may be able to help with things like that. So we could see a big speed up. And how big? So to get an idea of that, I'll compare the GDP growth in the US and China going back to the start of the century. And in the US, we see it's pretty flat. China, they were up at 10% GDP growth around 2010. And why was that? I think it was because they delayed the impact of technology. They didn't have personal computers in the 70s and 80s. They kind of waited. And they waited for the technology to mature and the ways of using them to mature. And then they kind of reaped the benefits all at once. And that's how they were able to get up to 10%. And then as that saturated their economy, it started to come down because they'd already seen the main benefits. And so I think that the impact of AI technology could be similar. Could see this as something that we're harvesting all at once, because look how fast AI is moving just in the last couple of years. So it feels like it could have the same kind of impact that digital technology had on China. I was at a conference recently that combined AI people and economists, and they asked, what do you think GDP growth is going to be 20 years from now because of AI? And the median answer was about 10%, but the range was everything from 1,000%, which seems impossible, to the complete destruction of civilization, which also doesn't seem very likely to me. So economists just don't know where we're going, but this is my prediction. Now, I want to talk about this idea of hierarchical organization. Say you have this nice hierarchy, and somebody here comes up with a report, hands it up to their boss, but the boss says, well, that's not interesting, so I'm just going to file that away. I'm not going to pass it on to anybody else. And then somebody else does the same thing and gets the same result. And I put these names on here because this actually represents something that really happened. So in 2001, two operatives at two field offices of the FBI in the United States, in Minnesota and Arizona, filed reports saying there's something going on with people in flight schools, and maybe they're doing something they shouldn't. And both reports were shelved because the organization had this idea that we're hierarchical and we like to have secrecy. So they never got together. And if they had, then maybe somebody would have said, looks like there's a concerted plot going on. Maybe we can stop this plot before something terrible happens. So we don't want to have hierarchical organizations like this. We want to embrace the idea that there's uncertainty. Somebody writes a report, you don't know if it's right or not. We want to encourage communication. Don't hide things away in secret. Share them as much as you can and build ways to find connections. Now, in a small company, it happens by people sitting around the water cooler and talking to each other. But in a big company, that won't happen. They won't find each other. So we have to use technology to find two people in very different parts of the company who have ideas that should come together. And that's why we want a networked organization, which is flexible, stresses collaboration and communication, and exaptation, which is a word from the theory of evolution. And things like feathers were originally designed to keep animals warm, and then they were adapted for a new purpose of flight. And I think that's the way that a lot of breakthroughs come, that it's not somebody says, you're going to do this project and we're going to, here's the specification, we're going to take it through to the end. It's you come up with one idea and then later you use it for something else. And that's how innovation happens. And network organizations have to do that, but as they get larger, they need help. And that's exactly where AI can play that role, that it can take this data that's messy and say, here's two ideas, they seem to go together, let's put them together and innovate something new. So we have a lot of ways of storing this information, right? So we have databases with structured data. We have data science that's designed to let us explore and visualize unstructured data. And we have generative AI, which allows us to understand and exploit all the data of all different kinds. Who gets to do that? Well, the databases is mostly the corporate database admins, and then they allow the users in. In data science, it's usually departmental data scientists. But in generative AI, we can build these systems so that anybody can use them. You don't have to learn fancy SQL commands. You can just go ahead and do it. Now, in terms of business applications, I want to look at a couple of them: fraud detection, credit scoring, algorithmic trading, customer service. And I think there's a lot of use of AI here. And generative AI is helping, but we've also had sort of old school machine learning and data science in these fields. So for fraud detection, you can do supervised learning. Here's the cases that are okay. Here's the cases that are flawed. Now let's predict a label on a new one. So we can do that. Part of the problem, though, is that if you detect what the bad guys are doing, they're going to stop doing that, and they're going to do something new. So supervised learning learns something that may no longer be useful in the future. So we can use these other approaches of clustering, and deep learning with autoencoders does an excellent job of representing transactions and allowing us to detect new kinds of of behaviors, even though we haven't specified that ahead of time. And we can look at various kinds of biometrics and user profiling. This user tends to do this thing and this thing and this thing. Now here's something comes in that looks different. It's an anomaly, could be fraud. And these technologies of graph neural networks work great for that. So we started off, language models use these linear networks, one word after another, and graph neural network says there's lots of connections. So we can detect, say, a syndicate that's doing money laundering. For credit scoring, AI is really good at finding these complex nonlinear patterns. And modern generative AI is good at using unstructured data. And that's really important, especially in developing areas where people may not have a lot of bank records and transactions. You can look at other data that's available for them. So, for example, making use of imagery. Someone doesn't have home ownership or a record of apartment renting, but you have an aerial view of where they live, and that gives you some idea of where they are and how trustworthy they might be. And the use of AI allows you to go faster so that you can track your customers and you can update their score even after a loan is granted. You can say, are they going up or down? And then decide, do you have to interact with them to fix that? Algorithmic trading is really interesting. The transformer technology that we use for large language models is really good at time series analysis, one event after another. And using it means there's less need for feature engineering. It used to be that an analyst had to go in and say, here's all the attributes that we're looking for. Now, if you have the right data, AI can sort of pick that out without a lot of human interaction in the loop. The traditional methods still have value, but these complex cross-addict correlation can be done with the newer generative AI approaches. And they can incorporate different signals than we've seen before, right? So we don't want to just know for each stock what's going up or down. We also want to know what are people saying about that. So let's do sentiment analysis. Let's read all the news articles, all the social media, and make sense of that and combine that in with the numeric signals, which is something we can do with generative AI. It was harder to do before. Customer service is a fantastic application. Conversational chatbots are always available and they can be personalized and proactive. I had a really bad experience just the other day where I was on hold for 45 minutes and you almost lost me as a customer when you do that. But if you can answer instantly and know who I am, know my whole history, give me a personalized summarization and resolve my problem quickly, then I'm going to be a happy customer. And we can also do things like triage. So you can have an AI system that handles most of the interactions with customers, but knows when something is unusual and we really ought to hand it off to a human expert to solve it. And then additionally, this idea of root cause analysis. So you've got a lot of people in the customer service room. They get really good at solving individual cases, but they may not be able to see the big picture and say, here's what's going on across multiple cases. Now we have a solution for that. And I was asked to talk about the application of quantum computing. I think that's really fascinating. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, I don't need to know this because I'm going to be dead before it works. Now I'm not so sure. And we're in this funny stage right now that they call the noisy intermediate scale quantum computing era, where we can build these machines with a couple hundred qubits, and they're noisy and they're not fault tolerant, and they can't solve the problem all by themselves. But what they can do is get us started and set up the problem so that we can then pass it on to a classical computer, which does the difficult optimization step. And we're seeing these methods improve as quantum computers advance. So I think in the near future, this will be common. And how do we make it work? Well, it's going to be important to have the expansion of cloud access to these quantum computers and have that be cost effective, because it's really hard to build your own. So really need to access it through the cloud. That's not generally available yet, but I think it will be soon. Getting the error correction threshold down is important. And there's going to be lots of exciting new applications in chemistry and in optimization and so on. And eventually, we'll get to this era where we can build bigger computers that can do the whole thing on their own. But it's going to take a while till we get there. Okay, so what do we learn from all this? So again, I think one of the keys is that AI is not regular IT. Don't think of it as putting in a big implementation. Think of it as providing tools that all your users can use and figuring out a way to encourage them all to use it and for them to say, how can I make my job better? What products can I invent that we haven't seen before? There is going to be uncertainty, but accept that and deal with it and encourage communication across the team, because having innovation comes when two different people are seeing something, seeing a problem from different angles and putting that together and coming up with a solution and using AI to help solve it. So that's where I would put my emphasis in trying to bring my team along, trying to get them to embrace this new AI era. And if you can do that, I think you'll be in the percentages that are successful and not in the ones that are failing. So why don't I stop now and we can open it up for discussion, and there's a QR code for these slides.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norvig. Your reflections on the now and next of AI remind us just how fast this field is evolving. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for any questions. Would anybody like to raise their hand, ask a question? We have a gentleman there. Can we send a mic to them?
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Prakash. I'm with Fitch Ratings and a student researcher at Binghamton State University, New York State University. So I am studying neural networks right now and just curious about the state of the art of some of the models that we're using to predict defaults or risks in the financial system, some of the work that was earlier talked about. What I want to understand is, given what the state of the art is today, is it more probabilistic in terms of trying to predict the future based on the past? Or is it already something that's understanding the mechanisms that drive risks in the system? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
From anyone who's willing to take it.
So certainly thinking of it as probabilistic, I think is the right way to do it. You know, if it was deterministic, then somebody would have solved it already, right? So it's hard to predict, especially the future. And in these financial markets, it's especially hard because it's adversarial, right? When we're trying to do physics or chemistry or biology, it's hard because there's a complex world out there that we have to model, but we don't feel like the world's going against us, right? Trying to understand how a protein folds. AI was able to solve that problem, but the proteins didn't change because it felt like AI was after them. In the financial markets, there are lots of people that are acting in adversarial ways. So we're never going to be able to be perfect at predicting what they're doing. So think of it as being probabilistic. It's saying we can do a little bit better than if we had less knowledge and less computing power and less data. And so we can try to predict the future as best we can. Another way you can win is by what we call predicting the present. So if you can just look at data and figure out what's going on right now faster than anybody else can figure it out, then you can take advantage of that. And there are various ways in which you can have that to your advantage, and you don't have to predict the future. You just have to understand better by processing data where we are right now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norvig. Do we have any other questions? We have one more question, and there you go. We can't hear you. Just a second.
Check.
Hi, am I audible now?
You can be a little louder.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shubha Sharma. I'm ex-Deloitte, ex-EY, and ex-HSBC. And I have sort of spent my life in the area of risk strategy and regulatory compliance in the BFSI sector. I currently own a startup, and we are launching Complifier.ai. So given my background, what I heard from Peter sir, there was one statement that sort of puts me on the edge, where when he spoke about what the senior management should be looking at in terms of strategic imperatives, he said that do not be shy in sharing data, freely share, do not be secretive. So that is where, you know, a risk and compliance person would be very edgy, and I'm not sure where to draw the boundary and what are we dealing with here. So please do elaborate.
So great question. And certainly, you know, I didn't mean to imply that you shouldn't worry about privacy and security. You need to have that. And if you have customers' data, you have a responsibility to protect that to the utmost. I guess what I thought more about was people thinking about your own business and coming up with ideas and making it easier to share that. Now I have a friend who got the job as a knowledge officer at Schlumberger, the oil company. And for them, they said, we're a big international company, we're all over the world, we've got lots and lots of employees, and sometimes we really have to know who has the expertise, right? So like an oil well is on fire in a particular way, and somebody in the company knows how to put that fire out, and until you contact them and they tell you how to do it, you're losing $100,000 an hour or whatever. And so they built the system and encouraged everyone to say, you know, sign up for this system, write down what you know, write down who you work with and what your connections are so we can assign you to the right teams. And it was hard going. There was resistance to that. People said, you know, I don't want to do this. I got a job to do day to day. Why do I want to add to this knowledge base? And one of the things he did that really turned the tide was going to upper management and convincing them to say, let's put participation in this knowledge base into the annual performance reviews. And when they did that, all of a sudden, people started to participate, and they could measure how much better communication was, and there was a real impact to the company. And I think the reason people participated, well, there was kind of two. One was, okay, they said they wanted to do this. If I do it, maybe I'll get an extra bonus, or I'll get a raise or something, or, you know, it'll be a little bit of positive that'll push me forward. But I think more important to that, what it said to people was, you know, management is telling me all these things to do. They got like a dozen memos of things I should be doing. But this one, they're putting money behind it. That means they must really care. And if they really care, then I'm going to participate, and I'm going to take this program seriously, and I am going to share the knowledge. And that made a big difference to that company.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norvig. It is a privilege to learn from you how essential it is to stay curious, intentional, and human in our approach. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know that he can hear us, now we have proof. So what do we need to do?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, sir. And now speaking of what is next. Our next speaker represents an organization that powers some of the most advanced AI breakthroughs on the planet, across industries, devices, and borders. From infrastructure to intelligence, NVIDIA sits at the center of global AI innovation. We're honored to welcome on stage Mr. Vishal Dhupar, Managing Director, South Asia at NVIDIA, to share his insights on the AI revolution, the India opportunity. Let's give him a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, louder.
The slides come up here? I say. All right, I think what a wonderful day this has been. You know, firstly, when you think about nation, when you think about a company that's involved with building the nation, genuinely, to me at least, gives goosebumps. We are all here today thanks to SNS, L&T, 80 years of building the nation. And more importantly, building an infrastructure for next one. And I stand before you to talk about industrialization of AI. Peter did a fabulous job. He said the primer. But I'm not going to indulge in that. I'm going to talk to you about industrialization of AI. What does it really mean? Where are we going? And most importantly, who's responsible? Now, everybody who's sitting on the first row, all the way towards me, are not responsible. Everybody who just laughed are responsible. Right? And it is absolutely important that each one of us get this perspective. And what I'm going to do for you is that I'm very quickly, I can't see the slides, so I'm just assuming that you can see, okay, that's right here. All right, so you can see this story, and this is a journey. This is a journey that I'll undertake you for about 25 minutes. We'll try and get the perspectives going, and hopefully you're able to resonate with this. Just a year before my birth, little more than 60 years earlier, the word got coined called modern computing, thanks to IBM S360. It wasn't as if computers were not there before 64, but in 64, introduction of IBM S360 actually did something really unique. Firstly, it worked on a CPU. Secondly, it abstracted the software layer from the hardware layer. For what? For software. Why? So that the software could maintain its precious value right through its journey. Architectures changed. You got into the era of mini computers. You got into client servers. You got into personal computers. And you got into smartphones that you hold, but the architecture never changed. The architecture never changed because there was a silent subsidy that continued to drive and power this architecture. If you ask the computer industry, they'll say Moore's Law. If you ask the CFOs, they'll say, very nice. I can now predict my budget. I know exactly this is where it needs to go. Why do we need to change? And this is how it works. Look at the second block here, which is the third block from the top. Somewhere around 2005, 2006, the data starts jumping up. There's personal computer, there's internet, you're talking on social media, you got mobile phones, you got e-commerce happening, you got UPI transactions taking place. All that data starts coming in, and is just exponentially growing. And yet, this engine, called the general purpose compute, powered on CPU, stalls. It no more can really do what it was able to do before. That whole multiplier that 2 years, I'll double the performance at the same cost, we call it deflation, won't work any longer. And yet, you had scores and scores of data with you. You wanted to make sense out of you, and you couldn't really do. And here was a contrarian company 30 years prior to this who was thinking about, if general purpose compute is very good at everything, it must not be good at something. And that was the introduction of CUDA. Because originally, this contrarian company wanted to bring pixels on the screen and yet realize the power of parallel computing and introduce a concept called CUDA. Why was CUDA introduced? So that the numerical values, people who work in science, people who use programs could now talk to the language of graphics. And who took advantage of it? AlexNet. In 2012, there was big bang of AI, the renewal of AI. We solved the world's longest standing problem, the problem of perception, so that computer could see and understand. And prior to this, in the ImageNet competition, for years people would come as experts and recognize images. They couldn't. The best they did was a year prior to that, which was 61%. These were experts, and yet non-domain experts decided to participate in this competition in 2012. They worked on it for 2 weeks, presented the algorithm. It crushed the ImageNet competition, not by 1%, 2%, 4%, by 40 percentage points. What was the reasoning behind it? What was the learning here? That now we could teach computers. We could teach computers to write software that no human could do. And that was the birth of solving problems not by instructing computers, but by teaching computers. And all of us know this. Each one of us can teach. And that's why 2012 was called the Big Bang of AI. However, underlying that architecture was the compute architecture called the general purpose compute, which was only used to instructions. And it worked in a particular fashion. And if you were a reasoning person, you realized that's not the compute that will work here. It had to be reworked. It had to be rephrased. And that's the enigma that universe normally faces, because you are moving in such a fast pace. There's a new knowledge. There's a new idea. How do you solve it? It's a chicken and egg problem. Who's going to solve it? Now, if you are seeing the future, somebody has to take onus. And we rephrase an entire computer, even though technically we were a technology company. We didn't build computers. We enabled computers. But for somebody to do it, we built a brand new computer that was called DGX. It was shared for our engineers along with some of the leading AI experts. And that changed the whole schema, how the computing worked, and what we came to an understanding that when you go to the world of prediction, and you saw that, you saw SNS putting his palm, then Swati came, she made us clap because we could predict. All that prediction started really happening because the compute changed. The more compute was there, more data was there, more predictable it was there because you understood what was the underlying relationships. You could now understand the pattern. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, you're going through a profound change in computing, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So the lesson here on this slide is the old engine of general purpose compute is literally dead. The new compute engine is in play. It's called accelerated compute. Now, the big question is that, all right, infrastructure is great, but you spoke about software. Software is very precious. and therefore what's happening in the world of software. Many of you know that the software was always written in sequence. If this, then what? And think about the underwriter who would ask people to write the software. He would go and say, we should give loans to people, but if their score in CIBIL is less than 650, flag it off. And by the way, don't even approve it if they have defaulted in last 12 months twice. Now, the software was great because for 60 years it worked, its value went up, but suddenly, every time something changed, it would break. It could be a seasonal thing. It could be there was a new way of doing things. It was so brittle, and it only worked on enormous amount of compute that we could only do what somebody asked a question on deterministic. It was very instruction-led. And the person who understood or gave instruction needed to understand every single environment and should know what it was. Now, this ran on the old engine and it was powered by CPUs. The new engine, you feed the data. You show them lots of images. And that's why all the applications that you saw, Klepops, Nostradamus, are all built on showing the computer pictures and images of hundreds of years of loans that you have given. You are showing to it that there is a farmer somewhere there who only buys seeds based on the seasonal requirement, is very consistent. CIBIL score is low, but let's go ahead and give him loan because he repays. You also look at a construction worker that, hey, he uses a mobile phone, he's been going to the same construction site for 6 months, you have an input from the satellite. Now you say this person pays because you can look at his UPI inputs. Talking about UPI, think about this. 2016, 915 transactions in a month. How many are we talking today? 12 million. Not 10x increase, not 100x increase. 13 million x increase. What do you do with that data? How are you going to write instructions to deal with that data? You really need to teach the computer to write the software on its own, and that power runs on GPUs. And that's why you are in a divergent world where you moved from general purpose compute to accelerated compute, and that's why so much compute is either getting replaced or being built up. SNS spoke to you about what OpenAI said. They're not investing alone on their application. That's the need. And now extrapolate that, how much of computing requirement is in play. So now we've understood that the old compute, the old engine is expired, new engine is in play. We write the software differently. Let's look very quickly, what is the physics that is going behind it? I see on the first bench a lot of people who take decisions. I know my industry in particular loves using jargons. We'll use words like LLM. We'll use words like parameters. We'll use words like, oh, now you can use SLMs. Forget that noise. Let's pay a little attention to these 3 scaling laws. There was one scaling law for CPUs, and it lived for 60 years. It was called Moore's law. Now there are 3 scaling laws. Think about the compounding impact that they have. The first scaling law everybody knows, and that's why OpenAI is investing $1.7 trillion. That's the pre-training law. That means you're taking the world's knowledge and cramping that knowledge into people. Exactly the way you went to school. Exactly the way you went to the college. Even the brightest minds, you collected knowledge, and the smarter and the brighter you were, the more input you got, and you got ready. And this was your raw engine. This is what you forged. Brilliant, bright. Question is, what should you do? Should you expense or should you rent? because the capital expense here is enormous. But maybe there's a unique reason behind why you should do it. Then you expense capital money. If you feel that you can partner with somebody, then you partner with it through OpEx. And that's why the big tech companies have built that moat, that operating system, which is called the foundational model. They want you to come from there. But it's as good. It's as good as you hiring a brand new graduate, brilliant person, but has to learn what L&T does. 80 years that L&T has been working on it. How do you bring them to that same speed? How do you learn infrastructure business? How do you build it? You got to get the soul going. That's called the pre-training. You got to now take that interactions you've had with the end market. You got to infuse that. You got to learn about it, and you got to make that work. And that's how that graduate will be a specialty person for L&T. And what you will do is that uniqueness. No competitor of L&T can then really say, oh, I also can do this. Think about if one company for training did so much, and you have to uniquely now do to build yours what you require. When you multiply that with enterprises, that's the infrastructure that you require. Now, you got a really specialized person ready to get on to the work, and the third angle comes into play. Remember the time that when ChatGPT came in, you asked a question, it answered instantly, and everybody started saying, oh my God, now you hallucinate, you are so biased, why should I use you? And what did the next thing the technology did? It started making it think. How? Like humans. Like you and I think. Now, I see the lady, she's looking at me, she's almost anticipating what my next statement is because I can see. My experience tells me what she's thinking about. She wants to know what am I going to speak next. It's exactly the same thing the engine starts doing. Now, if you have a simple question, hey, what's his credit score in CIBIL? Instant answer, put the least amount of compute, you get it. But no, I need to afford an infrastructure that's going to be built on GPUs, which has to have a contract, and I have to go to a bank, and the banker is saying, I've never heard about this story. I don't know what GPU is. I don't know what this contract is about. And you're saying, how can I get a contract without an infrastructure? How should I go about it? Okay, let me go and ask my own intelligence, my own co-pilot. And he says, okay, let's think about it, how to sell this idea. Maybe we're going to get one contract. Maybe we need to extrapolate that contract. Maybe we need to explain this to the people. And let's go and then approach it just like humans do. It's able to break down those problems. We call it the pedal. Just like in an automotive, there's a pedal and an engine. You press the pedal minimum when you need to go slow. Give an instant answer, work is done. You press the accelerator fully, you use more compute. And you do it to solve larger problems. And that's why these three things are working in orchestration. That's the compounding impact. And that's why you're getting really close to human intelligence. Now, many of you will ask that this is great. So I understand the engine is old. There's a new engine called accelerated compute. The software is changed. What does it really mean? Does it cost me a lot of money? On the left is what you will see in a data center. Probably any data center you see, I just picked a few racks. I put it as 960 servers of CPU. They consume your entire data center. I replaced them with just 2 computers. First question is, what was the price there? How much is this lower? 25 times lower. Then I look at it, where am I constrained? By reducing the footprint and paying less, did I regain power? On the left side that you are seeing, it consumes power at X. Of that X, this only consumes 1%. So if you were consuming 100 megawatts, now you're only consuming 1.2 megawatts. You reclaim 98 megawatts. And that's the TCO of this. So it's no more about speed. It's about speed and at performance at per watt. Because your constraint, your bottleneck is power. It's nothing else. And if power is what you need to deliver, how do you really deliver it? And it all happens if you use a single fabric. So we come down to the main point. So what are we all building? We build data centers. No, sir. You're building AI factories. Why aren't you building data centers? Because data centers was a warehouse. You used to keep your information and retrieve it when you want. In factories, you put a raw material, you power it on, and you get an end product. What is that end product? Called intelligence. What is the token of that? It's called token. The unit of intelligence is called token. It has value. It's your end product. It's that value that you then trade, either for your workflows or for your transformative things. You build based on how it works. Think about India for a second here. Think about India, where we have our own sovereignty in play. We have our own data, our own algorithms, our own sensibilities, and we work on it. We got the scale. We got our own scale, 1.4 billion people, 22 official languages. We know what does that model look like. If these are the two components that we have, where do you go? Do you go for this data to a refinery outside the country and re-import it at an expensive price and in turn improve somebody else's processes, or do you do it yourself? So do you want to pay more money? I don't know Middle East ever built refineries outside their own country and said, I have all the oil, but the refinery should be outside. How can we do that? If data is your fuel, if data is yours, if sovereign needs are yours, then how do you build this up? And that gets infused as tokens to everything that you do. That's when you figure out that that peasant, that farmer, who would fill 10 pages of application, and after 2 weeks will get to know that, look, my application has been rejected because my CIBIL score was below 650. Now, thanks to AI, which is able to figure out the patterns through multiple images, in 3 seconds can get a loan, and that Cyclops showed you that. Why? As a result of which, what did you end up doing? You brought in 350 million people into the financial gamut. Those 350 million people never existed for any of your competitors. You brought them into play. And that's the AI factory. Any factory is a strategic investment. It requires both investment. It's not an IT project. You got to start from top, and you got to expense money, and you got to figure out your ROI. And very quickly, the nation requires you to do it, and a cluster of that is how it's going to really work. Now, let me give you a quick example. I think Peter touched upon it. Electricity got found. All the candle manufacturers realized that maybe we should use electricity to produce more candles. And they produced more candles till somebody figured out that, hey, you don't need candles for illumination. You require a bulb. And when bulb came in, the business of candles all went out of it. There was a process. You took water, you took energy, you had electrons, you put a process, and out came electricity. You got transformers, and you got industrialized electricity. In 1920s, what did people start doing? They started figuring out, do I want to be in that business? Somebody said, why should I do it now? I should wait. And the other said, okay, we'll see, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. Both the last two went into footnotes. And those who took the action were the headlines. The same thing is happening with intelligence. What do? You take your and my digital experience, which is called the data. You pour that data into electricity. Out comes the token. The token has a process called accelerated compute. It becomes mass production. That gets applied, and you got intelligence on your hand. Same question we can ask in 2025 what we asked in 1920. Do we do it now? Should we be emerging now? Shall we wait? Or we should not do? How does this AI factory work? We spoke very quickly about the 3 scaling laws. You decide your strategy, you want to partner, you want to build. You then take your IP, you make the soul of the compute, and then you go into making it operational. That goes into your factory. You start building your prototypes. From those prototypes, you think about the application. And why did the MIT make that report? MIT made that report that 95% of POCs fail. What's happening with POCs? POCs are being worked in a silo. You're not putting the data flywheel there. When you were learning in the POC, you never reinvested on what happened. And it just became that old workload with this efficiency. And Shankar made a statement that, look, I was already doing it. You brought 3 seconds down. How does it make it? Why do I need to invest money? Because you never created the data flywheel there. You never improved the thing, and you never saw the child from crawling to running coming into play. That's why 95% of the people fail. Peter touched upon it, and he worked on it. So this is called AI. I think the slides are moving much faster than I'm pressing them. Look, this is what we bring on the table. We start as a wholesome. You'll find that the electrical work, the plumbing work is on revival. In US, they're not saying that this is AI revival. They're talking about this is a revival of the energy industry. You need to know that science. There's so much of job opportunities there that we got to build up. Our nation is very good at it. We'll bring you the blueprints. How do you build that up? And then we make sure that what you build is not only certified for today, but for next 5 generations, so that you don't have to refurb that. As you move up, the storage systems were built for past. They were all SQL databases. They didn't know how to take advantage. They have to be clubbed together, and that's where it works. Everything from there in green color is available if you want to buy from us or from one of our ecosystem. Each link is optimized. It's not one fabric, it's not one GPU. There are multiple things that are working together. Most importantly, that entire infrastructure is working in synchronization. And with that, you have the operating systems which are available to you. And very importantly on that, you have the blueprints. If you look at the blueprints, it's like your Excel template. It's like your PowerPoint template. You are allowed to build your own PowerPoint. It's different than mine. Yours is very different. You use those blueprints and build, and we add every day. That's what the factory does for you. It's ready to conquer, give you that specialty, and that's how it works. So eventually, what happens to the financial world? Everything starts getting impacted, whether you're in banking, trading, payment. Once I have a transaction, once I understand what's underlying that transaction, I know the payment mechanism. If I know the payment mechanism, I know who I need to go after. If I know who to go after, I don't have to ask a question. I got a strange call the other day. My mom was in the hospital. I get this little call saying that, sorry, we declined because you just spent 3 lakhs. I said, wow. Here is someone who probably pays 3 lakhs at the end of the month because I did single transaction, they're asking me this money. How am I supposed to feel? It's my mother who is in the hospital. And this person has got a rule-based system that because he spends 3 lakhs in a month, how can he spend 3 lakhs on a single transaction? If they had understood that all my phone calls were going from the hospital, if they had known what's really happening at this current moment of time, because hospital charge you this money, and this call is coming from the hospital, they probably would have said, thank you for investing. Can we help you with anything else? You got a medical insurance with us. Should you help you out? I would have been their friend for lifetime. Think about that example. Think about what is really the opportunity together, how much we can do. In interest of time, I'm going to go towards the end. So what did I speak? I said the old way, the way the computing is to run on old engine called the Moore's Law is dead. You now have a new engine called accelerated compute That's where all the compute is being built. That's why people are saying there's so much of demand for compute and the supplies are trying to catch up. Number 3, the way we write software has changed. Number 4, we got to think sovereign. We got to think sovereign because it's our data, it's our fuel, belongs to us, and for that we require to build infrastructure. 5, the opportunities are so big, how you think about it is what makes a difference. Don't think like the candle maker. Think like when you invent, like a bulb, you change the life. It's my belief, and I've said it in this very convention, that Indians are very good at adopting. Indians should now become the leaders because the work that we will do in India will impact many, many countries because we think about small volumes. So I don't know whether that clap was to ask me to go off, but let me do one more thing. I also made a statement here that as a nation, we will be very proud that very soon people are going to connect India to being the intelligence capital. Maybe Mumbai will be the financial intelligence capital. Why? Because of the diversity we have. Because of your ability beyond the first line to adopt and take this responsibility to build this wonderful infrastructure called AI factories in the country. And on that note, thank you very much. Think big, and we are here to help you out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhupar, for that high-impact session. Sir, I'm sorry, I know you just sat down, but I would request you to kindly come back on stage. And as you're walking up, I would like to thank you one more time for your perspective on where AI is headed and how it continues to accelerate innovation. I would now like to invite on stage Mr. Raju Doti, Chief Operating Officer at L&T Finance, to the stage to present you with our token of gratitude. Move to the center stage, gentlemen. It's all yours. And now everybody looking at them. Come on, give it up.
What you ended up now doing, I don't know whether they liked my speech or they're going based on your instructions.
Human mind is a curious mind and a very, very independent mind, so they're clapping because they enjoyed your talk. Is it right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, I didn't ask them to clap. You deserve it, sir. Now, from one inspirational leader to one of India's most ambitious digital transformations, our next speaker leads an organization that touches the lives of over 1 billion people every single day through a platform that's redefined identity, trust, and access. Please join me in welcoming Shri Bhuvnesh Kumar, IAS, CEO of the Unique Identification Authority of India, as he shares the incredible journey of building the world's largest biometric identity systems powered by AI and built for inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Bhuvnesh Kumar, give it up for sir.
Thank you. A very good morning to all. I'm still trying to recover from the awe of the previous lecture. Vishal, such an amazing presentation on the technology. It feels like actually going back to the college, the same college, REC Kurukshetra, where me and the chairman, L&T SNS, he's my senior from the same college. And you have sometimes your favorite professors, and they are delivering a topic of your interest, and you don't want to get up from there and come onto the stage to repeat something by uttering what you know from before, but you want to sit there and listen to people like Vishal Dhupar or Dr. Peter Norvig. In fact, it has completely changed the thought process, what I would have been talking otherwise. The presentation took me to my initial years. When I graduated from the college, I joined a company called CMC Limited. And it was PSU in the Department of Electronics, the then Department of Electronics, which later became the Department of Electronics and IT, the DIT, and then now today it is MIT, Ministry of Electronics and IT. Incidentally, I came back to the ministry after 30 years. I left CMC in '92 and came back to the ministry as Joint Secretary in 2021. So like full circle. But the thing that I was remembering, when I joined CMC, I got to work on mainframes, but in one of my customer locations, we had the personal computers. So we had the PC XTs. So we had slightly graduated. So in the college, we had the PCs, which were those 8085 processors. And in my customer location, we had a PC XT, which was a 8086 processor. And then came the year 1990, and that was a revolution. That was a revolution in the computer industry. I distinctly remember, so we had the PC 80 coming to the Indian market, which had been launched in the American market, by the way, in 1986. So it had come to India after 4 years. And the computer industry said it's a revolution because the processor speed had increased by 50%, and the storage capacity, the hard disk, its capacity had doubled. So it has an increase of 100%. And let me recall those figures, and many of those who are contemporaries perhaps would recall with me. The disk capacity increased from 20 MB to 40 MB. Please believe me, I'm not talking about GBs, TBs, I'm talking about megabytes. So the disk capacity doubled from 20 megabytes to 40 megabytes, and the processor speed increased from 4 megahertz to 6 megahertz. Right, so, and believe me, once again, the cost of this computer, along with an Epson FX printer, was 1 lakh rupees in the year 1990. So what we have been talking about, the price performance change in the computer industry, that is mind-boggling. Most of my colleagues and people with whom I meet, they think AI is reaching a very high level now. And many of them actually think that it should be regulated. It has reached a level where the regulation should come in. And I once again go back to that era and think that perhaps when that changeover happened from PC XT to PC 80, many people would have thought the same. For the computers in those days, what is being thought about the growth of artificial intelligence today? I still think it's nascent. A lot of new innovations have to come. A lot of use cases have to come. AI has been in existence for years, in the traditional way, but the generative AI, the large language models, and the way it is progressing now, it's different from that. My second stint, when I left CMC, I went to join the Department of Telecommunication. And in the year 1994, after 60 years of existence of phones in India, India reached 1 crore telephones across the country. That was the achievement. That achievement happened in that year. And then 2 years later, the cell phones started coming to India. The mobile phones came. And I hope all of you know today how many mobile phones we have. The latest estimate is that we have 120 crore mobile phones operating in India. So this is the power that the digital and the communication, IT and the communications have brought in the world today. One of the greatest digital transformation, powerful yet very simple, is the Aadhaar. I think each one of you who is sitting here has been associated with the Aadhaar in one form or the other. most of you would be possessing. According to our estimates, 99.9% of the adult population in India today has Aadhaar. We have generated 143 crore Aadhaars till now. More than 96% of the children between the age of 5 and 18, they also have Aadhaars. And 46% of the children below the age of 5 years have got Aadhaars. Every day, when you perform financial transactions, whether in the form of UPI, opening new bank accounts, doing authentications, e-signatures, almost everybody starts using Aadhaar. And this authentication happens through the Aadhaar mechanism. And UIDAI provides 9 crore authentications per day. Use of AI in the building of the largest digital ID program in the world started in 2010 when the first Aadhaar was generated. And I'm sure most of you would know how an Aadhaar is generated, but perhaps at the cost of repetition. An Aadhaar is generated based on the biometrics of an individual. There are 3 biometrics which we capture. One is the fingerprints. There are 10 fingers, 10 fingerprints are captured. Then 2 eyes and iris images, 2 iris images are captured, and 1 face. So we have 13 attributes of an individual. And when these 13 attributes are compared and matched with 13 attributes of any other individual, they will never match. And this ensures the uniqueness. This ensures the uniqueness of the biometric identity of an individual, which is called Aadhaar. So when a person comes for enrollment today, and we get 75,000 applications per day, and many of us ask, oh, already everybody is enrolled, so why are you getting so many applications? So India population is growing by 2.25 crore every year. 2.25 crore new children are born every year, and that many number of new Aadhaars we generate, which is roughly 75,000 per day. So when a new application comes to us today, and we take those 13 attributes, these 13 attributes are compared with the 13 attributes of the 143 crore Aadhaars already existing in the system, which means our computers have to perform 143 crore multiplied by 13 multiplied by 13 calculations to do matching and say that it does not match with anybody else. It's unique, and a new number, 12-digit number gets generated. And most people think that PVC card with a photo or an Aadhaar letter, that is Aadhaar. No, sorry, that's not Aadhaar. So what is Aadhaar? Aadhaar is only a 12-digit number. A unique 12-digit number without any intelligence. It contains no intelligence, purely a random number. Most other 12-digit number which you will see would have some form of intelligence in it. So if you have a driving license, it starts with UP30, XYZZ, fala fala. You can make out it has been issued from the state of Uttar Pradesh. 30 would be a code of district Hardoi, and so and so. Similarly, you can look at the passports and you can identify a lot of things. But a 12-digit number with some validation, we can have about 1 trillion combinations of a 12-digit number, of which roughly 80 billion can actually be Aadhaar numbers. Other can't be Aadhaar numbers because they won't pass the validation. So many times people try to create fakes. And one of the news I heard when somebody said that, oh, you can create Aadhaar with an AI. I'm sorry, no Aadhaar can be created with an AI. There's no way. Need the biometrics to create an Aadhaar, and most of the numbers, if you would create with AI, they won't even pass the basic test, the Varrow validation. It won't actually even be a valid Aadhaar number. Forget about being an Aadhaar. And every Aadhaar can be validated with the authentication, which is either demographic authentication or a biometric authentication. In the demographic authentication, you can provide the Aadhaar number and the name or date of birth or any of those features and match it. Or it could be a mobile OTP authentication, which most of us use today for various kinds of onboarding onto various platforms, availing government services, doing financial transactions. We all do mobile OTP authentications. That's another form of demographic authentication. And then you have the biometric authentication, which can be done either with the fingerprints, many people who are availing the public distribution services from the state and central government, they put their thumb impressions to get those food grains. So that's the biometric validation. Now, face authentication. In the month of November, I'm sure many of you would have heard this, the digital life certificate has to be submitted by all the pensioners. So this year, 2 crore pensioners are submitting their life certificate in this particular month so that their pension can continue. Earlier, all these people had to go to one of the government offices or maybe a treasury or a bank to prove that they are alive. Now, today, sitting at the comforts of their homes, they can simply go into an app called the Jeevan Praman app and just open that app, show their face, blink their eyes, and prove that they are alive, and their digital life certificate gets submitted. That's the power of Aadhaar, creating those things. Day before yesterday, we had the press conference on this, and the Honorable Minister was there. So he is also a pensioner from a state government. He was employed earlier. And I distinctly remember the people came and generated the digital life certificate of the Honorable Minister and took about 30 seconds to do everything, feed in all the information, do a face authentication, and this face authentication itself, from the UIDI Tech Center, we take a time of 300 milliseconds. So we deliver that authentication in 300 milliseconds. The use of AI has been there in the Aadhaar system right from the beginning. Not that AI has come after 22 or 23 or 24. So when this matching of fingerprints or the iris images or the face is happening, that's happening through something called the Automated Biometric Identification System. We call it the ABIS. So this ABIS itself is a form of an artificial intelligence, doing that matching and doing that deduplication, and it has been in existence since then. So when the first Aadhaar was generated, it wasn't matched against anything, but when the second Aadhaar was generated, it was matched against the first. And when 101st Aadhaar was generated, it matched against the old 100, and when 1 crore plus 1 Aadhaar was generated, it was matched against previous 1 crores. So it has been in existence since 2010. So this is the side of the generation of Aadhaar, enrollment side, which we call, and this is for the Aadhaar number holders, as we call them. On the other hand, there are entities who want to use Aadhaar for authentication and verification, and there is a risk of fraud. So fraud management, and my colleague is going to talk about detail in the fraud management in the next session here. So there again, we use AI in a very, very large scale. For example, what I talked about, the digital life certificates. So this face authentication is an AI model. So you provide the face, and that model has been trained to look at the faces, match the face, and then there is a one-to-one matching in the database, and authentication happens. We are aware about the risks when anything gets used. The people try to bypass that. And we saw that with the fingerprints, when people tried using gummy fingers, rubber fingers, and all sorts of things to bypass the system. So we had to go back, look at the fingerprint devices, create a different standard, incorporate changes, bring in hardware changes, bring in software changes to ensure that all the fingers which were being put on these fingerprint machines, they were checked for liveness. So the system would be able to identify. That is, again, a use of an artificial intelligence, creating models to ensure the liveness of the fingers. Same about the liveness of the faces. So it is not a video which has been played or a deepfake of somebody which has been played. So the system should reject that, and only when a live face is presented, then only the system should approve the authentication. And that's why we are now worried that the face authentication is becoming very popular. Computers might have stopped following the Moore's law, but fortunately, face authentication is following the Moore's law. So it took us about 18 months to reach a cumulative figure of 50 crore face authentications, but in the next 6 months, we reached from 50 crores to 100 crores. And in next 6 months, we reached from 100 crores to 200 crores. So we crossed 200 crore authentications. The first of this month, 1st November 2025, the highest number of face authentications have been registered 1 crore 62 lakh face authentications on one particular day. The previous highest was on 1st of September 2021, 1 crore 51 lakh. So the adoption is increasing at that pace, and I'm sure it follows the next, and we reach 400 crores in the next 6 months. So face authentication is increasing, and that's important to understand that now is the time we look at the safety of that also. And that's why we have engaged with very large number of startups. We have launched a hackathon. We are talking about the presentation attack detection. We are saying that all those who can give us, and I'm happy to say there are people who have various kinds of brains, and they have technologies, they have thoughts, they have ideas. One person told me that if the live face is presented, the reflection of light from the face is different from if a video is presented or a photo is presented and it is coming from a glass screen. And that is what can be used actually to ensure that actually a live face is differentiated from a video or a photograph. And the team is working on that. And there are so many other solutions possible, and all these can be converted into artificial intelligence models to ensure that the use of Aadhaar in the financial ecosystem continues to maintain that trust and that safety. It's extremely important. I'm happy to announce L&T Finance has been selected as an authentication user agency or the KYC user agency, and yesterday the UIDA has extended the license to L&T Finance, becoming an AUA KUA. And we already have roughly 600 entities who are working as the authentication user agencies in the Aadhaar ecosystem. And with the private sector coming in and authentication being used in the private sector, the number of entities required would be much more. And total number of authentication will go up. And that's why it's extremely important that the trust which has been built over the last many years continues and we improve upon that trust. And that's why even on the enrollment side, if you look at the past, in the beginning, the enrollment happened for people on various methods. In fact, there was something called introducer-based enrollment. There was a national population register-based enrollment. And that's how Aadhaar became inclusive. There were 25 crore people in the country who did not have any single document with them. And their first document was Aadhaar. And that's what ensured inclusion of people in the mainstream, and they were outside the ambit of any kind of social welfare schemes run by the central government and the state schemes, and it could bring in inclusion of those people. And I'm sure many of you who are here from the banking sector would recall that from the year 2016 to 2023, 56 crore new bank accounts were opened. 56 crore new bank accounts were opened. World Bank study says in the absence of Aadhaar and the KYC mechanism, cheaper KYC mechanism, and the zero-frill accounts, India would have taken 45 years to accomplish this. What could have been done in 45 years was accomplished in 7 years. So this could be possible because of that. People like you all who have been here and ensured that it was done. So 3 things which happened in India, that is Jan Dhan accounts. These accounts I'm talking about without any deposit, zero balance accounts, the Aadhaar of 143 crores, and the mobile, 121 crore mobiles. So these 3 put together have created a digital public infrastructure where all sorts of products have been built, including the unified payment interface. And today, sitting here, you can do any kind of financial transactions. So that's what has happened. And Government of India has been promoting the artificial intelligence in the best possible manner. The Created India AI mission. There are 7 pillars in the mission. It's a more than 10,000 crore budget. The free GPU usage is being provided to various kinds of entities, and data sets are being compiled. So I think these are the 2 most important things in the AI revolution. At the same time, on the language side, Bhashini, Digital India Bhashini mission is working on the language side. So put this together, and all those who come from the technology side, with the support of companies like NVIDIA, Google DeepMind, Microsoft, all those who are here, thanks to the sponsors for this kind of an event, And thank you, L&T, for organizing this event, inviting me over here. I'm sure the future of AI in India is very, very bright. Thank you for your patience for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Sri Bhuvnesh Kumar, for that incredible behind-the-scenes view of Aadhaar. Thank you. Well, Aadhaar is not just a technological marvel. It's a story of scale, responsibility, and national impact. And it shows us exactly what's possible when policy, purpose, and technology move in sync. Sir, as you're on stage, I would like to invite Mr. Sachin Joshi, our Chief Financial Officer at L&T Finance, to felicitate you with our token of gratitude. Come on. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen. All right. And now, from inclusion to innovation, our next chapter takes us to the cutting edge of AI research. He's a name from a synonymous with breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, deep learning, and ethical AI exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Manish Gupta, Senior Director of Research at Google DeepMind, as he talks about the transformative power of AI and the open challenges. Now, I need to see all of you putting your hands together, and I need to hear you make some noise.
Good morning. Thanks to L&T Finance for this opportunity. So I'm going to talk about, again, a topic that all of you have heard about. So today, it's no longer just us researchers, those without suits, but today, everybody, prime ministers, presidents of countries are talking about AI because of the amazing impact it is having on every industry, every aspect of how the world is run. So I come from Google DeepMind, where our mission is to build AI responsibly to benefit humanity. And one key area which I think we need to pay more attention to in India is AI for science, helping accelerate scientific discovery. And a very powerful kind of a signal of what is to come came last year when a Nobel Prize in chemistry went for the first time to computer scientists. Likewise, Nobel Prize in physics went to yet another computer scientist. And my prediction is this is not the first Nobel Prize which is going to computer scientists. You're going to see this kind of a phenomena repeat. So this particular Nobel Prize, one of the winners was this work on AlphaFold, which pretty much solved this huge scientific challenge of protein folding. What is protein folding? So if you all go back to high school biology, right, we all remember that proteins are the building blocks of life. Everything we do, the fact that I'm here, you're able to listen to me, everything is being done using proteins. Proteins are comprised of these chains of amino acids, which fold into a distinct shape, a unique shape, which gives the protein its distinctive properties. What's given a chain of amino acids? What's the shape that protein would take? This has been a grand challenge for the scientific community. If we go back 20 years ago, it used to take an entire PhD, roughly 3 to 5 years of research, to uncover the structure of a single protein. There used to be this contest, CASP, which was held to where newly discovered protein structures were posed as test problems, exam problems, to a competition where software would compete. And at this CASP competition earlier, in 2018, which was CASP 13 before that, a software called AlphaFold, which was again an AI-based software. It was using the ideas of transformer and neural networks and reinforcement learning. It captured the #1 spot because it was able to predict those protein structures quite well. But in the following competition, which happened in 2020, the predictions of AlphaFold, which are shown in blue, they were so close to the ground truth, what had been experimentally determined, that the community considered this problem effectively as solved. And since then, the AlphaFold team made predictions of all 200 million proteins known to humankind, made them freely available. So think about the acceleration of science that got done. About 1 billion PhD years equivalent of research was done in less than a year. What used to take about 3 to 5 years of research now takes a few seconds for AlphaFold. And this is not the only one. Of course, AlphaFold is being used for a very broad range of problems. There are over 2 million researchers, including over 150,000 researchers right here in India, who are using all of these predictions for various problems ranging from drug discovery. Drug discovery is a very key target application, right? Because you need to design the drug such that it would bind with whatever that, let's say, virus that you're dealing with, and so on. And not just drug discovery, even for things like plastic pollution, designing enzymes that would make the plastic degradable. There are those applications. So protein folding is something that our co-founder, Demis Hassabis, who was one of the winners of the Nobel Prize, refers to as root node problem. That if you tackle these root node problems, you're going to unlock solutions to a lot of problems. So while in India, we are rightfully talking about all of this AI-based transformation of financial services, health, learning, and so on, it is also important for us to start to think about AI accelerating scientific discovery, because that is going to have enormous both business and scientific impact. Another application area, weather forecasting, where again, I remember as a child that R.K. Lakshman cartoon, which shows that it's a bright sunny day and there's a guy holding an umbrella, and they say, oh, that's the weatherman. Because weather prediction used to be so bad when I was growing up. Every day there used to be that usual forecast. कहीं कहीं गरज के साथ छींटे पड़ेंगे. Mostly sunshine रहेगा. I'm forgetting the exact words. But it used to be so terrible. And already we have physics-based models which are doing an amazing job. But now, for medium-range forecasting, our colleagues from Google DeepMind showed this model called GenCast, which beats the physics-based model, which has been the state-of-the-art, the one ECMWF, one developed by the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting. It beats that in 97% of the evaluations. So today, when you do a Google search, I know whenever I'm traveling to a city, the first thing I check is the weather forecast so that I know what to pack. Now these forecasts are getting powered by these AI-based models. So many of you don't recognize Google has already become pretty much the world's largest weather forecasting agency. In fact, this recent storm that came, again, our team was busy trying to validate how much of our forecasts, how accurate they were. So back to more mainline topics. If we look at the trends, in recent years, right, about 15 years ago, and Vishal referred to that in his talk, there was that comeback of deep learning, old idea of artificial neural networks, which is loosely inspired by how the human brain works. And the equivalent of neurons, in this case, are these shown as dots here. These are very simple mathematical units, which could be just doing something simple as multiplying the input by a weight, adding an offset term, or taking all the maximum value of all the inputs. And once you organize, you have a collection of these simple mathematical units, the neurons, in a layer. And once you stack up those layers, these neural networks are able to do amazing things. You can feed it an image, which means the pixel values, and as they do those computations, they will produce the answer, oh, cat. So this is what got shown initially in 2011. There was that breakthrough as a result, where an image classification problem, a deep learning-based system was able to do a better job at predicting what those images were than the traditional machine learning-based system. And within a few years of that breakthrough, we started to see similar breakthroughs in a very broad range of applications. Things like speech recognition. Given an audio signal, can you recognize what words are being spoken? Or given this piece of text in English, can you translate that into French? So for a very, very broad range of applications, deep learning started providing the best way of solving those problems. But there were two things that were still not very satisfying about this. A, for every problem, you had to train a new network from scratch. And B, these required a lot of label data. That all of these breakthroughs were made possible by, for instance here, millions of images being annotated with what those images were. Likewise, millions of hours of audio data, which was painstakingly transcribed. And likewise, millions of pairs of sentence pairs that were used. Now, if for every problem, let's say for your business problem, if you had to train millions of data points, annotate millions of data points to train the network, it's not very practical. So that's what got tackled with this second wave, which is foundation models. And a key enabler of these foundation model was this transformer architecture that was invented at Google Research. The way to understand how transformers got used, there was a model that came out called BERT, which used this transformer architecture to tackle certain problems in natural language processing. And what BERT did was, it was trained on these, a lot of freely available digital text, things like from Wikipedia, digital textbooks. And it did the following exercise. It masked out some 15% of the word. Reminds me of this fill in the blanks exercise our English teacher used to give us when we were trying to learn English. And BERT was made to predict those missing words. Now you already knew what words you had masked out. So you knew the answer already. So you didn't need to train this data or annotate this data. And now when BERT predicted those missing words using this transformer architecture, it would look at the surrounding context. It would start figuring out how to pay attention to certain words like Obama, 61, Hawaii, to predict this word born. It started doing not only a great job at predicting those missing words, but also on a very broad range of natural language processing problems like sentiment analysis, summarization, and so on. Just like when our English teacher was testing our ability to fill in the blanks, she was testing our ability to understand the language and reason about context, reason about things from the surrounding context. So similar things were happening with BERT. Fast forward to a model called PaLM that Google built, and we did this exercise. Our researchers compared the performance of this one model on 58 different tasks with the best known model for each of those 58 tasks. So remember, the previous state of the art, you had to train a new network for every problem. So they looked at all of those 58 different trained networks and compared the performance of this one model, PaLM, versus those 58 best models. And this chart shows the relative performance. And you can see that for a few models, yes, the custom trained network did better. But for a vast majority of tasks, this one model, PaLM, was doing better than those custom trained models. this is what led Stanford researchers to coin the term foundation models. That now when you want to solve a problem, these pre-trained models are providing a very, very strong foundation for solving the problem. Now, of course, Google did all this work, but we were very concerned about launching anything using Palm. What if, because we knew it was prone to hallucinations, it was prone to bias, what if there are, whatever, people get hurt because of that? Meanwhile, there was a company called OpenAI that launched something called GPT with all of those same problems, but they saw that millions of users were getting very good value out of that. So that led then Google researchers to launch ultimately this model called Gemini, which is now becoming this one model powering all of the different Google products. So it introduced a few key capabilities. One is, while the term large language model has become very popular, these models are no longer only handling language as in text. They are multimodal models. So they will handle text, audio, video, everything, images. And one of the key capabilities that Gemini 1.5 introduced when it was launched, this was like now seems like ages ago, about a year and a half ago, when it launched in February, it introduced this long context capability and of 1 million tokens. So let's take a look at what that enabled.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental
Can you
feature
turn on the audio?
of the newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 44-minute Buster Keaton film, which comes out to over 600,000 tokens. In Google AI Studio, we uploaded the video and asked, find the moment when a piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket and tell me some key information on it with the time code. This screen capture is sped up, and this timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt. And keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model gave us this response, explaining that the piece of paper is a pawn ticket from Goldman & Company pawnbrokers with the date and cost. And it gave us this time code, 1201. When we pulled up that time code, we found it was correct. The model had found the exact moment the piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket, and it extracted text accurately. Next, we gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what is the time code when this happens? This is an example of a multimodal prompt where we combine text and image in our input. The model returned this time code, 1534. We pulled that up and found that it was the correct scene. Like all generative models, responses vary and won't always be perfect. But notice how we didn't have to explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details, like it did here. These are just a couple examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million
Then we, about a year ago, we launched then Gemini 2.0, which started introducing some agentic capabilities.
Gemini
Let's take a look.
Enables new kinds of multimodal AI agents. Agents that can see and hear the world around you. Think, plan, remember, and take action. Gemini 2.0 is what enables Project Astra, our research prototype of a universal AI assistant. Using capabilities like multimodal memory and real-time information, it lets you understand your world, live.
What can you tell me about this sculpture?
The sculpture you're seeing is called My World and Your World by Eva Rothschild, located in Lewis Cubitt Park in London.
What kind of themes does her work explore?
She creates abstract sculptures that invite viewers to interact with and interpret their surroundings in new ways.
Project Astra is multilingual, using native audio to seamlessly switch languages as you speak.
Est-ce que tu peux me dire quelque chose d'intéressant à propos de ces lanternes?
Bien sûr, je peux vous parler des lanternes. Les lanternes que vous voyez font partie de la porte d'entrée de Chinatown à Londres. நிச்சயமாக இது லண்டனில் உள்ள Chinatown நுழைவாயில்.
We're taking this to the next step with Project Mariner, with agents that can complete tasks on your behalf. You can ask it to do things like this that require multiple steps, doing research to look up the artist, then finding the painting, and then shopping for the right supplies. The agent uses the web to take action and find what you're looking for. It plans and reasons at each step, always staying in your control and completing your task. Gemini 2.0 enables agents that can be applied across domains. We're exploring agents that can explore virtual worlds, assisting you in video games.
Where do you recommend I attack from in the space?
Given the base layout, I'd recommend attacking from the bottom or south side. This direction allows you to target the town hall directly with your giants, while the wizards can handle the surrounding defenses.
Gemini 2.0 can reason about the physical world, understanding 3D spatial environments and objects. These capabilities are being applied to robotics, with agents that can assist you in your everyday physical environment. Learn more about how Gemini 2.0 is enabling the...
Another term that has become popular is vibe coding. Today, even if you are not a regular programmer, but even programmers are beginning to do it, you don't need to just program using computer languages. You can start to use English, natural languages, to start doing programming. And these are some examples that you could give it an image and text, and it will generate code. Another area in which we have seen tremendous progress is creativity. If you go back 10 years, most even AI experts were predicting that AI would be used to automate mundane tasks. Creativity will remain this uniquely human endeavor. And you can see AI helping us generate amazing art. This has been made possible through a class of models called diffusion models. These were again invented at Google Research. The idea is inspired by thermodynamics. In fact, you have this process where you take data and you first add noise to it, and then you convert that noise back into data. And what you get is amazing results. These are images that have all been automatically generated by this Imagine 4 model from Google, which is considered today the state of the art when it comes to text-to-image generation, and also video generation. So VO3, and soon to be, again, there will be a VO4 coming out soon, widely believed the best model for video generation, and you can see why. Here's an example of a clip that has been generated automatically.
It's a force, a wild, untamed might, and she commands your awe with every breaking light.
So this entire video, the digital actor, the words he spoke in a very natural sounding manner, the sound of ocean waves in the background, the lip sync, lips moving in accordance with the actual text, all of this was basically AI generated. So you can see that the day is not far when Hollywood, Bollywood would be using these kinds of tools in a big way. And we look at AI not as a replacement for artists, but really augmenting human artists. We often think of it in terms of raising both the floor and the ceiling. Floor would be where people like me, we can create better music using AI. Ceiling would be when we work with experts like Shankar Mahadevan to help him create better music. And this was an example of what came out of a jam session with him.
Working with Sandbox is great. We inputted our requirement and it gave us a bed. We used that bed and we came up with this song.
I would have loved to play on. I really like this song. But coming to a pet topic of mine, inclusive AI. How do we make all of this AI work in a manner that works for everyone, not just the Western world? And this is where I really believe that India as a country has a lot to offer, not just as a consumer, but as a producer. And this is where we must become producers of AI technology as well. So I'll give you some examples of here where the work that our own team in Bangalore has done leading to some amazing advances that are being launched by Google globally. One of them, our starting point was languages, that we looked at the performance of all of these models on English versus Indian languages, and we saw a big gap. So we created a benchmark called Indic GenBench, which was presented at this ACL conference, which included various tasks on 29 Indian languages. And these tasks included machine translation, language translation, and also cross-lingual question answering, where let's say you ask the question in Hindi, the information is in English, but you need to, now using that information, answer the question in Hindi. And our team set out to build a model that would be able to close this gap, right, that we saw. Very significant gap between the performance of these models on English versus Indian languages. So I asked our team lead, Partha Talukdar, to make sure we handle all 22 scheduled languages. And he told me I was not being ambitious enough. So he pointed me to this data from Language Survey of India, that there are 60 Indian languages which have over 1 million speakers, 125 languages which have over 1 lakh speakers each. So he said, let's build a model that understands all of those 125 languages. So easier said than done. The next thing he told me was 72 out of these languages are zero corpus languages. There was zero known digital data on those languages, despite millions of speakers. So this is another thing we have to correct. Despite India being now the most populous country in the world, guess what percentage of open web data is in Indian languages? Any guesses? It's close to 0.02% of the open web is in Indian languages. So we really need to become more of producers, not just consumers, in every sense. So also the other thing we know is every language is spoken in so many different ways. The same language, Hindi, if you go to Haryana versus Punjab versus Bihar, it's spoken in so many different ways. So we have a saying in Hindi called, "Kos kos pe badle pani, char kos par vani." For those of you who don't understand Hindi, roughly translates into every few kilometers, taste of water changes in India, and every 10 kilometers, nature of voice changes. So this quote inspired Project Vani that we launched together with Indian Institute of Science to capture the whole speech landscape of India. So we've been collecting speech data from different corners of India, and the goal is to eventually collect it from each and every one of the 773 districts of India. We have made data so far available from 143 districts, over 27,000 hours of audio. We've made that freely available under the Bhashini program from the Government of India and ISC's Vani website. It covers 103 languages. It is the first ever speech data for 35 of those languages, first ever any form of recorded digital data for 22 of those languages. So our hope is to uncover many of those languages. And I keep, again, emphasizing to my colleagues from the industry, don't just aspire to make your product eventually work on 22 scheduled languages. Make it work for all of the languages that our people speak. Because we have people speaking Bhojpuri, all kinds of Santhali, all kinds of languages. And ultimately, we want to make anybody being able to not only get information, but do transactions in their native language. And to take models like Gemini, which were built, which have very, very powerful capabilities that I showed, compose with a specialist model like Vani that we built, which understood Indian languages, our team invented an approach called CALM, which is a way to automatically compose two language models. And we started to show much better performance in Gemini of Indian languages. So today, when it comes to understanding of Indian languages, Gemini offers the best quality. Of course, I would also like, we've also been collaborating with startups like Sarvam. They've started to use like open version of model from Google called Gemma, which also has the highest quality for Indian languages when it comes to open models. We would love to see more startups and companies in India taking this performance to an even higher level. Because what we are working on now is an independent benchmark that IIT Madras can create for Indic languages that all of us, Google, OpenAI, Sarvam, we can all compete. But today, I can say that when it comes to at least benchmarks like these, very proud to say that the models built by my team right here in Bangalore provide the best performance for Indian languages. And many of those capabilities, it has laid out the blueprint for us to tackle a whole bunch of Southeast Asian languages where we, again, have shown market-leading performance. We've also worked with teams like Translate, Google Translate, to take that capability, and last year, Translate in one shot added 110 new languages because of the language translation capabilities of these modern LLMs, taking the total number of Indian languages supported by Google Translate to then 28, and 7 new languages from India were added out of those 110. And the kind of feedback we got from people whose language was supported for the first time was very, very heartwarming. Of course, we don't want to just create those benchmarks.
At how Gemini can help.
Namaste.
So we want to solve problems like learning. So take a look at this.
हाँ, मैं समझती हूँ कि आप चाहते हैं कि मैं इस इक्वेशन 3x स्क्वायर प्लस 5x माइनस 2 इक्वल 0 में x का हल निकालूं। क्या आपने इसे ट्राई किया है और क्या आप मुझे इसके स्टेप्स दिखा सकते हैं?
हाँ, मैंने क्वाड्रेटिक फार्मूला यूज किया है। क्या ये ठीक है?
हाँ, ये सही तरीका है, पर आपने डिस्क्रिमिनेंट में एक छोटी सी गलती की है। आपको कोएफिशिएंट c के आगे एक माइनस साइन छोड़ दिया है। सही कोएफिशिएंट्स हैं a इक्वल्स 3, b इक्वल्स 5 और c इक्वल्स माइनस 2। इसलिए सही एक्सप्रेशन 25 प्लस 24 होगा, न कि 25 माइनस 20।
So this is something which has just right now in the prototype stage in our lab. But now the dream of a personalized tutor for each and every Indian child in their native language, now it looks realizable to us. And we are determined to go after that dream. We've also been working in areas like agriculture, another area where our team has created the very first model that from satellite imagery, at national scale, it would give things like field boundaries, identify farm boundaries, identify crops that are being grown, sources of water, and so on. So just like Aadhaar basically revolutionized mobile payments by starting with the unique identifier for each human, we are hoping to again transform the agricultural landscape by being able to assign a unique identifier to each farm, so that now you can build a digital agri-stack that you can have information about, okay, what's the farm ID? What's the crop being grown? Can you estimate the yield? Now you can start to unlock use cases like loans to farmers, insurance to farmers. Today, cotton crop insurance is very, very exorbitant because the insurer has no way of knowing, is the farmer actually going cotton crop or not? Because insurer doesn't have a way to send their agents to the farmer's field, which might be 200 kilometers away. Now with a click of a fingertip, or basically click of a finger, you can, based on the land records that the farmer shares, latitude, longitude information, you can check what crop the farmer is growing and do that work. So this required a number of innovations which our team in India did of dealing with the spatial challenge in India. Our farms tend to be much smaller than those in the West. Temporal landscape, that during monsoon season, much of the country, spectral landscape, that during monsoon season, much of the country is covered by monsoon clouds, so you need to use additional spectrum. And temporal challenge, that you want to identify the crop as early as possible, not just after when it is ready to be harvested. And again, very proud to say that this API, which was first launched for trusted testers in India, was recently launched in a whole bunch of Southeast Asian countries. And now it is being taken to Africa. So another example of India providing leadership to the rest of the world, especially the global South, providing technology leadership. Finally, another area in which we have a team that I'm very proud of, which is amongst the global leaders in the world, is on efficiency of LLMs, right? You saw the earlier speakers all talk about how so many nuclear power reactors are being built simply to power these AI models that are being used by now more and more of us. How do we make these LLMs, these models, more efficient? There's a lot of innovations that have come out of our team in India. One of them that I'm very proud of is called Matryoshka transformers, where we build these models in a manner that, let's say you have a 16 billion parameter model using Gemini, 16 billion parameter model, using this Matryoshka methodology. So the name Matryoshka came from Russian nested dolls, right, which are nested one inside the other. So just like those nested dolls, these models are nested one inside the other using our methodology. So nested inside the 16 billion parameter model is an 8 billion, 4 billion, 2 billion, and a 1 billion parameter model. So now, and we have shown that these independently derived models work as well or even better than an independently trained model of that size. So now, depending on the query complexity of the query or of the task, even if you have only one model deployed, let's say this model is deployed on your mobile phone, and in fact, this Matformer methodology has been used in the Gemma 3N models from Google, which are available on mobile phones, because phones only have space for one model. But now, inside that one model are hiding these smaller models. And if a task only requires not the most complex, not the biggest model, let's say to solve a complex problem, if you want to simply summarize that email, a smaller size model is good enough. And if you have a really simple query, who's the Prime Minister of India? You don't need any large model. The smallest of model is good enough for those kind of queries. You can direct them and save on energy. So this and a whole bunch of other optimizations, which I won't go into today, basically our team systematically looked at the different components of a large language model, the various layers, the generation part, the attention component, the feed-forward softmax, and came up with a series of improvements which have led to very significant. And you can see this is already like a multi-billion-dollar problem, right? All of these companies, like Google, has already announced, right, publicly, this is not confidential information. Publicly, we know Google is talking about spending over $90 billion in a year on hardware to serve these models. And many of these methods are delivering improvements, sometimes 20% improvement, sometimes 40% improvement, sometimes 2x or 4x improvement. You can imagine the multi-billion-dollar impact that our own team just from Bangalore has delivered for Google and the world. So we have also published some of these methods, and there are others in the industry taking advantage. So ultimately, we are helping bring down the overall energy consumption. There are still many, many challenges as we build these powerful AI systems, but in the interest of time, let me stop here and say that AI is already here in a big way, where we have seen this growing use of foundation models built using generative AI methodology now start to provide a very powerful foundation for solving real-world problems. And it's an amazing, once in a lifetime, I see this as an opportunity for us to play a role where we can take our problems that we face as a nation as a challenge. And once we come up with AI-based solutions to many of these challenges, we can also take many of these solutions to other parts of the world and become true technology leaders, not just consumers of ChatGPT, Gemini, NVIDIA chips, and so on. Let's become producers of technology, not just consumers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for that deeply insightful session. The way you articulated both the promise and the open challenges of AI gives us a valuable reminder that the future isn't just about breakthroughs. It's about responsibility, inclusion, and reflection too. I would like to now invite on stage Mr. Jinesh Shah, Urban Secured Assets and Third-Party Products at L&T Finance, to kindly present to you with our token of appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for both the gentlemen. All right. First of all, I would like all the people that are sitting over there, if you see an empty chair, it's very easy to spot. You'll see an empty spot, just come and grab a chair. Don't leave the seats empty. Well, it's nice to know that people are actually listening to me, because I'm not the one imparting brilliant knowledge over here. I will take a few minutes because I feel that your level of applause has gone a little low. And as Mr. Dhupar had talked about patterns and breaking patterns, I'm going to break a pattern over here of applauding, all right? So what we're going to do is, this section in front of me, on my left, you respond to the word L, to the letter L. What letter? Wow, is that how you're going to respond? You respond to the letter? Brilliant. Now the center section, this section and this section, you're going to respond to the letter T. Which letter? Ew. Which letter? All right. And the lovely people on my left, you're going to respond to the letter F. The letter? Well, this side's more awake. That's lovely. And all of you as a room, you're going to respond to the word raise. What was it? What is that? All right. What you're going to do is, as and when I say your letters, you're going to take your arms in the air and give me one clap. Can someone do that for me once? Yeah, you all got that. So, L, T, F, and raise. Yes? Wow. Yes or no? All right. L, T, F, raise, 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 raise. I need to see all the arms in the air when I say raise, and that's not happening. We're going to do it one more time. F, T, L. Ha, got you. L is SI. One more time. L, T, F. Raise, 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 raise. So I can see you just blatantly staring. Can you all do raise one more time? Raise, raise, raise. L. Such an interesting human brain we have. L, L, L. What happened? Are you looking at yourselves or me on the screen? What is it there? All right, ladies and gentlemen, one last time. L, T, F, raise, raise. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, from frontier research to practical application, our next session is all about trust. We now turn our attention to one of the most critical aspects of digital finance, ensuring that know your customer doesn't become miss your customer, especially in an era of identity theft and deepfakes. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Srimati Tanushree Deb Barma, IAS, Deputy Director General at UIDAI Technology Center, Bangalore, as she speaks on managing fraud in KYC. Please give it up for ma'am.
while the slide comes up. So I work out of Bangalore Technology Center, which is UIDAI's arm for technology development, maintenance, and data center. And unfortunately or fortunately, I head that team. And whenever my team comes to know I am doing a visit to one of these events, they go into a shell shock stage. कि मैडम वापस आएंगी and she will ask, अब ये implement करो, अब ये implement करो, अब ये implement करो. So they are all waiting for me, coming back and for my WhatsApp messages. And people like Manish and of course the esteemed speakers before me have just inspired about what the frontiers are. And UIDI, like its reputation stands, we promise that we will keep adopting what is the best in technology in the field and adopt it as we give service to the Aadhaar number holders of the country. So I have been given the task of talking about managing fraud in KYC. Right. So how I have structured the presentation is what we are doing in UIDI till date, the story so far, the current processes. A lot of us work in a lot of silos. And like CEO UIDI Bhuvnesh sir talked about, in a very simple manner, if we do not create context of what we do, a lot of times do not understand the nuances of how things work. So I'll be talking about what we do as KYC in enrollment of an Aadhaar number holder, and then you can use it as a utilization of KYC for authentication, and how we are keeping KYC safe for you. And we'll take this opportunity of how we are democratizing this whole process of authentication for the newcomers in the field. And we are launching the new Aadhaar app and how it will change the dimension of how KYC is done in the country. Also, a new regulation, which is good governance regulation of Aadhaar, which will enable and open up the use of KYC for the private sector and the non-government sector. And together, how we are collaborating with the industry and the academia to make this product safer. So, CEO sir has already talked about the global coverage story of UIDI. I will not repeat it, but some numbers just are quite stark, and it's in a day of work in UIDI Technology Center. We enable 8 lakhs enrollments updates every single day. That's the average number count that we follow. 1.3 CR average KYCs a day, and 9 lakh authentications per day. Some days it crosses 12 as well. And 2.6 billion face authentications cumulatively that we have covered till date. This is a story of universal coverage, enabling technology to the last mile. Coming to understanding the process, as you are aware, many of you, your Aadhaars are 10 years old, so you don't even remember what you gave and how you got it. Same applies to me. But we capture only 3 of your biometrics, as little as your name, your address, your date of birth, and gender. These are the mandatory fields. The mobile and the email address are non-mandatory. It helps for communication with UIDI and other information if you have it. And then create an Aadhaar which creates these details. And the card, like CEO sir said, is just a means of doing the technology transition. In fact, 13 years back, when we were talking about it, there was a requirement, should we even give a card? We should just give the number and the functionality should work. But it's unfortunate that even today, we carry a card around. I think it's another 1 or 2 years when we can claim that we are completely cardless or paperless as well. So what exactly happens when you give your details into the Aadhaar system for a fresh enrollment? We make sure that your biometrics are getting deduplicated across the ones, actually it's 2 billion gallery, because every update that you have given with your biometrics is also in my gallery, and we make sure that we do not generate a second Aadhaar for the same individual. And this all happens out of our 2 data centers in Bangalore and Manesar. In addition, we'll also check a quality check for your documents that you have provided, how they match, etc., with the issuing authority. What else have we added here? Thanks to AI. In the first check, when we are doing the biometrics check, we've applied the liveness detection, the age prediction, and unsystematic capture. So as we have seen, the more adoption in the system, the more attempts for faking, spoofing, and gaming the system. So we check if the biometrics actually are human. Have we tried to use my golden retriever's eye for the iris? We'll catch it. Have we tried to use toes to try and go through? We'll catch it. So this ensures that the biometrics that are coming in are clean. Then we've applied duplication as well as fraudulent attempts and illegal immigrant check. So if somebody has come in and applied through the formal channel of immigration, we talk to the immigration database and make sure that you are not applying for an Indian Aadhaar, but a foreigner Aadhaar, which we have enabled since the last 1.5 years. And we make sure that the 2 databases talk to each other so that we prevent the use of illegal immigrants, what has been very predominant in the past. We've put a plug to it. Next, we make sure that the document that you have given is spoof-proof. Is it a Photoshop document? Is it the same document that your operator or the Mohari tried to use multiple times for multiple people, and we detect the fraud there. Plus, we have integrated with DigiLocker, we have integrated with election, PAN, and many other issuance authorities like the RGI for the date of birth, to make sure that somebody is not just photoshopping or creating a birth certificate and trying to pass through. So we do this due diligence to make sure that the Aadhaar we generate is a clean one, a deduplicated one. In addition, before all this happens, the entire enrollment process is tried to be kept spoof-proof to make sure that our operator ecosystem is not succumbing to any fraud. So there is a lot of due diligence before operators are certified, enrollment agencies are certified, and what services are allowed to each operator. Plus, every enrollment that you do or an update you do, about 1,000 data points are collected and stored at the back end so that we can do anomaly detection at the background. Untimely, unbehavioral, out of sync operations of an operator automatically pop up at the back end, and we can pull up that behavior to understand if he's trying to fake something or game the system. With something called the Operator 360 that we have implemented, we ensure that there is penalty of errors that the person is getting checked for. We do deactivation instantly for a grave error, GPS binding so that he's not working outside of the office that he's allowed to, plus device telemetry and network security to ensure this all happens securely. How do we keep now, once the Aadhaar is generated, the authentication process clean? The entire network on which authentication works is very tightly controlled. To that effect, L&T FS took about a year to get the AUA license. Thanks to CEO Sir's intervention, we are trying to squeeze that timeline. But it is for the right reasons that we have ensured that the infra that the AUA and the ASA partner is providing is spoof-proof, the encryptions are in place, the compliances are in place, so that all the authentications that happen over the ecosystem are whitelisted. We know they are coming from registered devices which have the front face fraud detection. All of this is very tightly controlled. Sir talked about how we have shifted our device infrastructure from L0 to L1, where the front-end devices ensure that injection attacks can be prevented, spoofs can be detected, gummy fingers, for example, replays cannot happen. Spoof detection checks for iris and face are also in place at the front end as well as at the back end. And additional information shared with the AUA is a new concept that we have introduced. We've already signed MOUs with 80+ entities where when they have integrated through an API with us, we also give back information that this Aadhaar has been deactivated for being a fake Aadhaar or made on fake documents, has died from the information that we have received from RGI. All this information is very critical information when you consume it as a bank, where you know it's a fake Aadhaar or it's been deactivated. Why is it coming to you for authentication now? So we think this will, again, enable the ecosystem a lot. And availability of multimodal auth. So whenever one of your entities gets registered as an authentication agency, you have the freedom to use authentication in many ways. You can combine an OTP with a face with a finger, all that you want. And if it's very high risk, you can even combine all the 3 factors to make sure that you are very, very sure that the authentication is secure and not being spoofed. And of course, we are on a real-time basis doing anomaly detection to make sure that the authentications that are happening are not being gamed. I'll just play this short video over here.
Hello, हर्षित, मैं आधार से कॉल कर रही हूँ. क्या आप अपने रीसेंट एनरोलमेंट के बारे में कुछ सवालों के जवाब दे सकती हैं?
हाँ, दे सकता हूँ, बताइए.
क्या आप 12 सितंबर 2024 को आधार सेंटर गए थे?
हाँ, गया था.
क्या आपके एनरोलमेंट नंबर के आखिरी 4 डिजिट्स 1342 हैं?
हाँ, एटाई छिलो.
Which how he shifted to Bengali.
আপনি কোন আধার সেন্টার গিয়েছিলেন, তার নাম আর লোকেশনটা?
আমি এইচডিএফসি ব্যাংক গিয়েছিলাম.
আপনি শুধু সেন্টার নেমটাই বলেছেন. এইচডিএফসি ব্যাংক কোথায় আছে তার এরিয়া আর সিটিটাও বলবেন.
ব্যাঙ্গালোরে হোয়াইটফিল্ড.
I'm just stopping this here. This is the potential of, if we were to do outbound calls, this would cost me a bomb. But now I just feed in the model, train the model. We've done this POC and now in production with Servam AI. Speaks in all actually 22 languages that we have incorporated, and do 10,000 calls in a jiffy and make sure that the experience is noted, the analytics is done, the operator is scored based on how well he treated the customer. Was he operating outside from where he was supposed to? Take that analytics and red flag it in the operator 360 that we were talking about. And this creates a deterrence on how operators behave. Let's see how we do this.
मैं आधार मित्र हूँ. क्या आपने 12 सितंबर 2024 को HDFC बैंक में फिंगर ऑथेंटिकेशन करवाया था?
नहीं, ये तो मैंने नहीं किया था.
हमें बताने के लिए धन्यवाद. क्या आप एक
So imagine, I'm cutting this short. Somebody gives you a call. You've not done that authentication, but now you know you need to report it immediately. Now, we cannot make these calls across the board, but our analytics engine at the back end detects anomalies. I think Vishal's example of sudden transaction of 3 lakhs may crop up. But yes, it is worth it to make that call right then, to report an issue that I did not make this transaction. Please inform my bank and do the, the deterrent aspect so that it is not further defrauded. So these are the applications of the bot models that we have applied. मेरा बहुत बरसों का सपना था कि एलॉन मस्क और सैम ऑल्टमैन के साथ मेरी भी फोटो छपे. But what comes to your mind the first time you see this? Yeah, but can you detect that it's a fake? Had you not known that they were Indian or non-Indian? Yeah, suppose they had Chanakyapuri address, Delhi. तब आप कर पाते? सिंपल, कितनी खराब फोटो है मेरी, उसी से पता चल जाता है. Cannot be so nice in Aadhaar. Of course, we are working on that as well. But more importantly, please have a look at that QR code over there. So even before AI, since we have started issuing our cards, we have started putting this encrypted and encoded QR codes on your physical forms of Aadhaar. And when you show it, and you don't have the capability of having an AUA license to do an OTP check, or you can still verify this by using mAadhaar app. How many of you have mAadhaar app right now? So please use mAadhaar app, use the QR code scanner there, and try and scan this. And you can use that address to send me gifts subsequently. But more importantly, if you had used these two, it would not have read through, and you would have immediately detected that these are fake. So this we have, even beyond AI, we have been able to secure offline verification. Now, what's new? Like I mentioned, even if you are not an AUA yet, your business use case is different, you can still now apply, starting February this year, to apply for Aadhaar authentication license. There is a process that is followed. You have to present your use case, and through the department and through MIT, these approvals may go through, and you will be able to use Aadhaar authentication on a real-time basis. But if you did not have the scale or the numbers to do that, what would you do? Introducing the new Aadhaar app, ladies and gentlemen. We are wanting to democratize how Aadhaar is used, showed, and shared. What is in it for you? We will ensure that the digital usage of the Aadhaar becomes formalized and scaled up to a large extent. How we show, share, verify Aadhaar is becoming so much easier. The cost of integration with the UIDAI ecosystem will be much shorter. We are promising 24 hours for integration. Ensuring how you used to pay to any kela wala or amrud wala is how you will be able to share your Aadhaar across the board. So let's take an example of booking at a hotel. We have seen so many cases where you take out your Aadhaar and give it across the concierge, and they ensure they don't even verify, they don't check the QR code. So all sorts of things can happen. But if you were to integrate with Aadhaar as an hotel owner, and we have actually integrated with a few bank hotel chains, where you will share your ID online without having to touch Aadhaar ecosystem at all. It is between the Aadhaar number holder and the verifier. You enter the hotel, they already have your details. You can do a face authentication or a face verification right at the concierge desk without having to touch the Aadhaar ecosystem. It is trustable, you know it has not been tampered, and you can have a seamless journey of Aadhaar verification. Imagine all the people come through MyGate and you keep getting calls, you've allowed them or not, all the irritating calls that happen on MyGate and other platforms like that. Completely seamless flow where you have allowed somebody, the person entering the system, you exactly know how there's a digital artifact enabled, just sharing your ID, how you share money. And in addition, if you wanted to ensure proof of presence, you could do the same by ensuring that the verifiable credential that you're sharing with that entity is also spoof-proof and liveness detected. So this can even happen through an app-to-app flow. You can use that QR code while this video is playing to download the Aadhaar app.
We'll walk you through how identity verification works securely between a relying party app and the Aadhaar app using the app-to-app flow. A relying party app, such as a bank, hotel, or any identity verifying service, asks the user to confirm specific details. In this case, they request proof that the user is over 18 years old. The user selects the requested detail, age above 18. The user is shown a consent form that explains what data is being requested and why. After reviewing the purpose, the user approves the request. After giving consent, the app securely redirects the user to the Aadhaar app. Here, the user enters their Aadhaar app PIN to confirm the request. The Aadhaar user will see the request details, including the verifier's name and the specific information being requested in the Aadhaar app. Next, the Aadhaar app performs a quick face authentication. Once verified, only the necessary detail, like age above 18, is shared with the relying party app. No extra personal information is disclosed. This secure process ensures that your data is protected and only the minimum required information is shared with your full consent.
How do you do it with QR? I think I'll skip that. So we are collaborating now with startups. Many of them are here in this hall today. We've opened a challenge under the SITA scheme. We are collaborating with academia as well. And if you want to know more, you can scan the QR and go to that site where we have hosted these challenges. A lot of collaboration is in store, a lot of mentorship, funding, as well as the use of our sandbox, which we have built within Aadhaar, which will be open to not just our AUA, KUA system, but also to the new partners that we are anticipating to come in, like many of the startups who are working in the ID tech domain. We want to encourage the ID tech domain and ensure that they are able to contribute back to the digital public infrastructure story of the country. I request everyone here, both AUAs, KUAs, entities, and other requesting entities and use case makers to collaborate with us on the sandbox. And these are the partners who have already collaborated with us, be it banking, insurance, other ecosystem partners, healthcare, who are doing a lot of experimentation with us. All the APIs that you work with within Aadhaar are available there. The new features like verifiable credentials, login with Aadhaar are available there, and there is a support team which is dedicated to ensure that your experience is great. We want to ensure that the innovation within Aadhaar continues and we find new use cases to implement and do citizen-centric innovations. Just to end on this note, while we are at the concept of KYC, each and every one of us can do these minimum things, keeping your biometrics locked, use the Aadhaar app, keep your biometrics or your Aadhaar locked so that only when you use it, you unlock it. Keep your details updated, your mobile number is updated, your email address is updated so that every transaction that you do, like your bank account, you come to know. Keep a watch on your email for your auth transactions. Any suspicious behavior, you can report immediately. Share masked Aadhaars only. Please don't distribute it just like that. We have a concept of download Aadhaar with masked last 4 digits are there. Please use that. Don't share your OTPs across. Please make sure that the source that you're sharing it is the legitimate one. Use QR code to verify, otherwise you will think Sam Altman also has an Aadhaar and so does Donald Trump. And ensure that whenever you're using a website for availing Aadhaar services, it's a correct website. You're not going to a nonsensical website which tries to capture your biometrics just like that. And report individuals who are deceased, because as banks and financial entities, it's our duty to contribute back to the system. So when you report, others report, you get back that information in a conglomerate manner, which Aadhaar is taking responsibility for. So not just deceased, if there is a fraud, if there is a deactivation for a wrong means of getting an Aadhaar, you will get that information back because of the API integration with Aadhaar. And of course, using of the new Aadhaar app for various new use cases, it's a playground out there. I request you to experiment here. And please check the update history for yourself and your peers to make sure all that is done is correct, especially for employee verification, etc. I end my presentation with this launch video. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
For years, proving your identity meant carrying physical photocopies or printouts of Aadhaar everywhere. Photocopies that could be lost, misused, or fall into the wrong hands. Even for small services, you often had to share your entire Aadhaar when only basic details were needed. It's time to change that. Presenting the all-new Aadhaar app, a smarter and safer way to share and use your identity in completely paperless manner. Privacy first. Share only what's necessary. Keep the rest private. Digitally verifiable. The Aadhaar app lets you share verifiable credentials with any third party, securely, transparently, and only with your consent. Whether through app-to-app linking or QR-based sharing, you stay in control of your identity always. For example, sharing of VC at a hospital to verify a patient's details during admission. Sharing of VC at pilgrimage places. Public events. Apartments or society for smooth entry. Anywhere, anytime. Prove your presence instantly with Aadhaar Face Authentication and access your authentication history in real time. One-click biometric locking feature ensures your Aadhaar is 100% secured, whether traveling abroad or on holiday. For families too, add and manage Aadhaar profiles of your family members, all in one place. Perfect for families sharing same Aadhaar registered mobile number. This is more than an upgrade. It's a transformation. A step towards convenience, privacy, and trust in Viksit Bharat. The Aadhaar app, your gateway to secure, paperless, digital identity sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Srimati Tanushree Dev Barma, for that insightful talk. Your session underlines a few powerful truths. One of them definitely being that half of us, or more than half, are not proud of the pictures on our Aadhaar. And most of us are also unrecognizable now. But the real truth is that AI in finance isn't just about speed or scale. It's about safeguarding trust. And that trust starts with secure, reliable identity systems. I would now like to invite Ms. Kavita Jagtiani, Chief Marketing Officer at L&T Finance, to present to you with our memento of gratitude. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, don't make me do LTF phrase again. Thank you so much, ladies. And now we move into our first panel discussion of the day. And it's the one that gets the right towards the heart of business of growth. AI is rapidly changing how we acquire customers, personalize outreach, and fine-tune acquisition strategies across segments. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our panelists. Mr. Bhavesh Jain, MD and CEO, TransUnion Sibyl. Mr. Anirban Mukherjee, CEO, PayU. Mr. Madhusudan Ekambaram, co-founder and CEO at Credit B. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Manish Kumar Gupta, Chief Executive, Urban Unsecured Assets, Payments and Digital Partnerships, L&T Finance. You know what you have to do, everybody. Come on. We have some brilliant minds on stage over here. Let's hear their insights on how AI is driving smarter, sharper growth in India's financial landscape.
I think I have a tough job. Basically, after some wonderful sessions and lunch after this, I have a tough job to actually get some really great friends and participants as a part of this panel. And this is the first panel of the day. And our basically our topic is applicability of AI in customer acquisition. We all know that AI has actually been great for many of the people who are sitting in the room. We've seen Cyclops, we've seen what it's done for L&T Finance. And I would actually introduce the panel here. Bhavesh. Bhavesh is the CEO of TransUnion Civil and a very good friend, and and a lot of services that he provides are actually based on what the topic we are talking about. Madhu is the CEO of CreditBee, and basically it's an emerging fintech. And of course, we were talking just before this, as the kind of cycles that we've seen in the fintech industry, things are going down, but now things are coming up again. And of course, Anirban. Anirban is the CEO of PayU. Both in the payments as well as in the lending space, they've actually done quite well. I was telling him yesterday that LazyPay, which was one of the earliest products on the BNPL side, they've actually used a lot of machine learning to actually evaluate customers. Was, I think, one of the first products that was actually launched in this country. So let me just start off. So Bhavesh, and this is maybe just 1 minute from each of you. What exactly does basically applicability of AI or AI-led acquisition mean to you in the financial services space?
So for me, AI means reimagining trust. It's combining data insights with human intelligence to ensure financial inclusion and ensure it goes into deeper geographies and build inclusion at scale.
I guess, so the biggest thing that AI has to give is the lowering the CAC, or the customer acquisition cost. I think I'm a transactional business guy, so I think that's the biggest outcome, what I would anticipate. Today, is the industry there, or are we there? The answer is a little bit murky, not very clear whether AI has really brought down the CAC cost. But if at all things have kind of turned out is one thing, right? What I observe in my people, company, and everywhere is that the emails what employees used to write to managers or to the customers have become more sophisticated. The language suddenly has become quite improved. So the communication what we are doing with the customers has greatly improved. I think that's what is the real change what I have seen. With respect to the cost, I think it's going to happen, but it's a little far away we are. Yeah.
Yeah. See, AI in financial services, I think will democratize access to credit in a much bigger way. Look, the march of any technology is TAM approaches population scale and costs approach the lowest possible, if not zero. I think AI will enable. So AI will make it much more predictive, much more personalized, but much more autonomous, which takes out a lot of the costs.
So Bhavesh, we talked about financial inclusion, and I think we've seen Manish's presentation. We've seen what's happening in this space. So how do you see rural lending actually incorporating AI and actually bringing real financial inclusion to the in this country?
Great question, Manish. So it's a combination of multiple data sources where AI would be deployed, starting with in terms of vernacular languages, voice components. Third is in terms of OCR-based data aspects, Both is in terms of converting all the unstructured data available across multiple sources. Next, I would say including all the aspects around land records, to KYC information, to a lot of other information, both in terms of asset and cash flow. So AI would be the best deployment across all the multiple data sources, both in terms of structured, unstructured, voice-based, other data sources, all coming together and ensuring that you are able to establish the right behavior for the consumer, which makes underwriting even in a rural location quite objective. We have seen the massive growth in credit over last 2 decades has been enabled by objective lending. While rural credit growth has happened significantly, but then it's largely in the space of unsecured and some of the specific secured lending. Now it's the opportunity to deploy AI, combine all these data sources, and really make credit inclusion possible in the rural space.
Great. Madhu, you talked about CAC, and you said, okay, one of the things that you are not very sure is how AI is going to bring down CAC. But anything that CreditBee is doing in this space to actually, or on this particular point, to actually bring down CAC for getting customers in your area, in your company?
The CAC will come down with L&T will stop its own marketing for us, right? So anyways, I think CAC is a function of how is the competitive world has kind of geared up and then how much each of us are spending, right? So there's multiple factors. But a little important to, what is the UI use cases which is what we have adapted, right? So before answering that, probably, let me ask one question to the audience, right? So how many guys actually use ChatGPT on a regular basis? Just it works with raising hand. How many guys ask minimum 10 questions to ChatGPT on a daily basis? Okay, great. So very early, about a year back, in our company, we bought this licensed version, and we provided access to all our employees to use ChatGPT because that might improve the productivity and whatnot. We wouldn't know what exactly the questions they asked, but we would know the category of questions they asked. Any guesses on personal question versus personal questions that was asked to the ChatGPT during work hours? 94% of the questions were on the personal development or personal issues, starting from career development, se leke, household problems and whatnot. But that, after using that use case of ChatGPT, today I see that it has come to 70-30, right? 70% is towards still personal, 30% is towards the organizational problems, the work-related problems, but that's a great improvement, right? So I guess that's how the evolution would happen with the AI kind of ingrained to the companies. Now, having said that, this was one of the various experiments. The biggest outcomes, what we have seen about AI in our company, especially in lending, is a lot operational oriented as well. You need to do customer service, you need to do collections, you need to do telesales. Multiple things are quite operational led. So therefore, agentic AI has really brought in the efficiencies today, right? So that's the biggest efficiency improvement, especially as I talked about, the emails have become quite curated, right? So what you are writing to the customers or even within the organization, intra-organization emails have really kind of gotten to a very good maturity level. The calling has become more automated calls. I think just now we saw the examples of these automated calls and whatnot. And the clarity of communication, because you could bring in a lot of regulatory constraints. So a human talking might even do a mis-selling of a product, or might be a collections is a sensitive call, so we don't want that calls to be kind of going into a different angle altogether. So in all these things, the agentic AI has definitely made impact in the lending ecosystem, which are operationally heavy, right? So this is one thing what we have seen. The second thing is really the co-pilots of the world, right? So co-pilots are the developer assistant tools which can generate code, right? So I think when we started, it becomes tougher because you have a legacy source code, and you put any of these co-pilots of the world, the new code, what it generates over a legacy code is not directly usable. But in case if you're developing something altogether new, right? So complete from a scratch, and trying to use these copilots of the world to build certain source code from scratch has given us a very great improvement, right? So for example, like recently there was one new piece of code. We launched our UPI. So the entire UPI stack we started developing over this copilots. Close to about like 65, 70% of the code was developed by these copilots compared to the engineers. But on the legacy code, I think we are trying to work upon. So I think there are various areas within the organization that AI is coming in and then doing a lot of efficiency check. But whether can you put a right buck and say that, did my OpEx increase by 5%, 10%, 15%? We are just reaching there, right? So it's not like it has come out very evidently, but we are all reaching there, yeah.
Great, thanks, Madhu. Anirban, you've used a lot of transaction data. You of course manage a very large part of the payments business, and payments is unstructured data. And many years back, even a pre-LLM era, you actually were using this transaction data for acquiring customers, right? How do you see that change in a of using the same set of data in a pre-LLM versus a post-LLM era, I would say?
Yeah, a great question. See, we've always used machine learning for figuring out transaction credit, who to lend to, how much to lend to, what use cases to promote. And this was, this started late 90s in the US with Capital One. And, you know, I've just seen it evolve over the last 25 years in many different ways. With LLM, you can use unstructured data and multimodal data. What they say to customer service, what cohorts of similar people say at different points, how they serve the app, how they, just that data can improve it substantially. And then if you have access, and you can use all their data all across, both voice, video, emails, chats, everything, then you can just underwrite very differently, but also you can do something else, which you can figure out what they really want. And really, in some ways, transaction credit is a lifestyle product. It's a credit product, but just like credit cards, it's both a transaction product and a credit product, and you help them get what they want from the world, right? That's your job as a platform. That's what we take seriously, whether it's offers, rewards, whether it's installments. You can help do a lot of that market making. You can become that platform if you use the data really well. That's the true power. That's on the consumer side. And of course, cross-sells of personal loans and other larger lending tickets become much easier. But on the seller side, we work with many partners. What transaction happens in a, let's say, in a store, whether it's a cloth shop or whether it is a mithai ka dukaan, what kind of people come, what feedback do they give that guy, is very, very useful in predicting the creditworthiness, right? So more kinds of data used in many more creative ways tells you much more about their creditworthiness, but also what they want. And that's how I think the world will evolve.
That's great. Rather, there's something which is something that happened yesterday, which is quite interesting. So yesterday, I think the AI governance guideline came out. 63-page guideline, which effectively talked about safe and trusted AI. And I think now that, and it's a lot of it is actually focused towards customer acquisition, on how exactly we should evaluate or how exactly AI model should be deployed for customer acquisition. So question to you, Bhavesh, basically, and I think this is a question for each one, we can go one by one, is basically it talks about explainable AI. How do you think explainable AI is, or basically fairness and biases are actually will play a role going forward, and how do you comply to the guidelines that are coming? They're not a regulation, but they're a guideline, and I'm sure this is something which TransUnion has been working on. So,
absolutely, Manish. So it's a very important aspect when you look at deploying AI across different use cases and consumer life cycle. I would say 3 pillars when you look at deploying AI in your organization. The first is in terms of making sure it's fair. Second, it's explainable. And third, are you holding yourself accountable for it? So when you look at in terms of explainability, as a leading credit bureau, we make sure that the score, say for example, is explainable both to the end consumer, to the regulator, and to the bankers who are using it for underwriting. That's the main point in terms of making sure when we use AI. Second is in terms of fairness, that you don't bring in any biases in any shape or form, right from in terms of the data sampling to in terms of the deployment of equation to the variables. All the aspects of the AI deployment ensures that there is fairness in it. And third is in terms of accountability, in terms of how you are monitoring all the AI deployments across different use cases and stages of the consumer life cycle, that you hold yourself accountable and make sure that there is no biases, and at any given point of time, it's explainable to the end consumer, the regulator, and customers at large. These are philosophies with which we work with.
No, of course, Bhavesh. Madhu, in your organization, how do you see fairness, and basically which are the areas that you actually see maybe non-explainable AI actually working? So,
I guess this would be relevant if the customer service department head is around this crowd or not, right? So if you are in lending company and if you look at the customer queries at the customer service, what is the biggest question? If you are doing a disposition of all the queries, the biggest question is, why am I rejected? End of the day, most of the lending companies or finance companies are, I mean, it's in a funny way I'm just telling, but we are in a business of rejection, right? Matlab, I don't think anybody approves more than 10 or let's say even 15% of application, whatever they are flowing in. So 85% we are rejecting. We are in a business of rejection. So when you are rejecting so many people, the biggest question what you get is, what happened with me? You know, why are you guys rejecting my profile or my loan application, right? So therefore, the way we explain that reasoning has to be curated, because one of the things what regulator is stressing upon on all the lending companies is the transparency, right? Whether it is the credit approval or rejection or the credit limit, whatever we are offering to the customer, can you explain in as rudimentary way that anybody in India across the masses can understand that, right? So therefore, explainable AI on top of agentic AI is becoming very, very critical, right? And then explainability also becomes very critical with the mode of language what you're using. And also, I mean, I'm an South Indian, so I'm not a standard Hindi speaking guy. I can understand Hindi and everything, but there are some Hindi speaking agents which talk to me. The kind of words that they use is like, probably, I don't know, for me, if being a South Indian, it sounds like a Kabir Das ka words. I don't even understand what they are saying, right? So whether they're told yes or no is also becomes an issue. So therefore, explainability is not only about that vernacular thing, but then coming to quite localized and trying to give them the context of what they are trying to convey, right? So therefore, explainable AI for me on the agentic AI is the next complexity what we are all trying to solve, where AI has taken a lot of focus and probably it has not come out well. Is, you know, you started with, can we, okay, so there's this one more company where I heard, because one of my investors is trying to evaluate this AI company and everything, which is trying to replace the management team. They feel that management decisions are not always data backed, and then therefore there is somebody who is going even by the gut feeling. So these guys want to build certain AI models, which also challenges this management decisions, saying that the data says yes or no to whatever you have decided, right? So I think these are probably a little bit overrated because it's not taking any human angle, the experience angle, or the local context and many things. So it's only going by the data which is historically available and not really on the current context. So for those things, probably I feel that are overrated in whatever you asked. But yeah, it's a lot of moonshots to hit in AI world.
Madhu,
amazing. I will go very quick on this. I think both the things we heard, removing biases and explainability are very important. I'll give you two specific things there. In terms of biases, when you build models on a sample that is only seen urban tier 1 customers like people or like us in this room, apply it to tier 4 or tier 5, both you're leaving money on the table, but that is bias. It is very important to remember there are many segments in India, many different kinds of people, cash flow patterns are different, and we have to think about them very differently. And that bias you have to remove. Explainability, I learned a phrase 25 years ago on this, and it's still, I think, says what's our responsibility as credit decision makers and as modelers. It's called physics behind the math. Always be able to explain what are you doing. Don't only go by the maths. Try to get to the reasoning behind the model and try to explain to yourself from first principles that this is a good decision or a bad decision. So that physics behind the math has stayed with me for 25 years. And I think it's always the struggle. As the math gets more and more black boxes, that is something that we have to solve for.
Very interesting, physics behind the maths. So that's something that is that'll keep with me. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll actually do a small lightning round. We'll ask a question and then basically have to say in one-liner of what it means to you. So, to you, one AI myth in lending.
Infinite data leads to much better models.
Interesting. One barrier in the ecosystem must fix for AI adoption.
Consent-based data.
One trust principle that you will not compromise on using AI.
I think the fairness, yeah.
So Bhavesh, back to you. One metric that matters most in acquisition that can be solved using AI.
I would say, being a score company, I would say capture rate.
Anirban, what's the most overrated AI buzzword?
Most overrated. For me, it is bias.
I want to add to that. The most overrated is $1 billion. Any AI company is today, it's raising $1 billion. Forget about your valuations, right? So therefore, hopefully that follows to India as well, but anything that is there about AI is $1 billion.
I will also like to add, saying that prediction that AI will change the world and it will make humans not have any employment. I think so that's overrated and overstated.
That I think we heard as well.
Yes. Look, actually for me, the other one is human intelligence. AI is, you don't have to be intelligent in the human sense to do some of the things that human intelligence does. That I think is the biggest myth going around about AI, which is not true. One word though.
Let me ask one last question to all the three panelists. We talk about a lot of non-credit data and we talk about a lot of alternate data, right? So let me ask you one alternate data point that you believe will change the way underwriting will happen and something that either is available or not available, but the most important or just one alternate data point that you feel will actually change the way underwriting happens.
So I would say utility information that can be a game changer for rural underwriting.
If only I had known it, I would be using it and I'll not tell you guys, right? So that is what it is. I don't think that today in this credit underwriting world with so much of data access and data democracy, there's no single data point that can change everything. If there was something like that, some holy grail like that, I think everybody would have already gone and hunt for it and then started using it, right? So I think that's something which it has become more complicated with so many companies working on it. I don't think there's a single data point like that, but there's a group of data or a new data source which is going to kind of do the changes, and how fast you can access the data, believe in the data, and then build the models on top of it is what is going to win the race, right? So having said that, I have one small example to give very quick. So we used initially in the very pre-COVID era, right, where there was no regulations and everything, you had access to all data points in the phones that is available, okay? So since any small fintechs would do, in 2016, 17, we were a small no-name fintech, we accessed all the data and started analyzing anything can make any credit, credit decisioning. There was one very thing that came out is that we looked at the alarm data. If any guy who has kept the alarm before 6 a.m. or on or before 6 a.m., his credit behavior is also really great, right? So then we started correlating, मतलब सुबह जल्दी उठने से होता क्या है, right? So The idea was that if there is some discipline in life in some angle, that the discipline actually kind of goes around many aspects of his life, right? This is what at least we concluded it. But yeah, sometimes this kind of data also surprises you. Yeah.
On a lighter note, Madhu just told me before the panel discussion that I don't like to get up too early and take morning flights, so I wake up after 7 a.m.
UPI data, the killer app according to me.
No, but thank you, Bhavesh. Thanks, Madhu. Thanks, Anirban. I think it was a wonderful discussion, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I know we're standing between lunch and this, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists and our moderator for that thought-provoking discussion. I would request you all to kindly remain on stage, gentlemen. It's clear that customer acquisition is no longer just about outreach. It's about intelligence, timing, and trust. And AI is rapidly becoming the engine that powers all three. Now I would like to request Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Chief Executive, SME Finance at L&T Finance, to hand over our memento of gratitude to our esteemed panel members. Come on, give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You can now have your seats. All right, it's time to now refuel. Please join us for lunch, and we'll see you back sharp at 2 p.m. for a slightly unexpected twist, something a little lighter but still very much AI themed. Until then, do enjoy your lunch and conversations, and don't forget to attend L&T Finance's ultimate competition of AI startups, Pitch Point, in the tech track happening right next door in Ballroom 2.